lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. He's crazy
As I
stuff.
said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield for 4. He slides through. He tags Richard.
The British have certainly made motorsports a national pastime, and it's hard to think of other nations of such a small size that have produced quite as many great drivers and car manufacturers. And what's more British than touring car racing at Brands Hatch? Today, our drivers will need grit, racing savvy, and a whole lot of speed to come out on top. We'll find out who can take home the checkered flag as we get ready to watch the Vapes British Touring Car Championship opener, Round 5 of the Pacific Majors. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth, as always, is Bill Soup Zahn. Joining us today is our resident touring car expert, Jake Do You Mind Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Jake, we're excited to get to hold today's racing out in your neck of the woods. Tell us about Brands Hatch.
Brands Hatch is a fantastic circuit. It's one of those circuits when you look at it, you just feel that it is the quintessential British track. Formerly a Formula 1 circuit, now it applies its craft even in British touring cars, and this Kia Optima is going to be the pinnacle of it. Indy layout, so it's short. You don't run up through Dingledale and through Westfield Bend. You have this clearways corner, this long 180-degree looping right-hander. You'd call it a carousel in the United States. It's just a beautiful short circuit which everyone just needs to get bundled into. Paddock Hill Bend will be crucial. Druids will be even more so, and a lap around the track will be so paramount.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Kia, so let's do a lap around Brands Hatch. Paddock Hill Bend comes up quickly, and in a front-wheel drive car, it's going to be even harder to try and get to the gas and power out of this corner. Climbing back up the hill, you've got your best passing opportunity braking into Druids. Drivers are likely to try and square off this exit for a better run, but expect plenty of side-by-side action here today. Back into the valley once more, we come to Graham Hill Bend, where the track limits go surprisingly wide at the exit. Use it up as much as you can to help carry your speed through the corner. Then you've got a short blast of Surtees, which will lead us onto the shorter Indy layout. This almost acts like a quick chicane with the way the normal line goes. Swing wide and then really focus to get the car turned in for Clark. This will be a patience-trying corner, but it's oh so critical because it leads you back onto the pit straight. With that being the longest acceleration zone of the track, you'll want to nail it as often as possible. Hopefully you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Brands Hatch. And that's a very quick lap around this track. We're going to be doing quite a few laps with 3 heat races, and we've finished 4 races so far in this season, which means we need to pay attention to the points, and to get us up to date on that, let's go to Bill.
Okay, we're going to start with the Mario Andretti Drivers' Championship. Now, what's unusual here, I'm going to start, first thing I'm going to mention is a team name, Alliance Racing. Look at that overlay. You see 3 drivers from that team. Lionel Callisto, Little Train, sitting in second place. He's 11 points out of the lead. Dropped down a spot, picking up 2 spots. Brian Bennett, again for Alliance Racing, in the 3rd position. A Northwest driver. Callisto was from California. Then you go all the way down to the bottom. Jason Fleisley from the West, another Alliance Racing driver in 5th position, 41 out. So who did we not mention? Well, it's our overall points leader, Blake Reynolds, for Riding Shotgun. He's got 390 points. Keep in mind now that these points take into account the dropped races where they get to drop an oval, they get to drop a road event. So these are the actual values here. Very cool that a series does that. I appreciate it a lot. Saves Simon and Poindexter a lot of work down there in the dungeons at GSRC. Hey, keep an eye out. Michael Thompson. That's not the Michael Thompson's Clay's dad of the Warriors. That is a different Michael Thompson. Elite West Racing, 32 points, a West driver in 4th. Let's go ahead and bring up the team championship now. And, you know, we talked about, there's no surprise, who do you see up on top? Well, it's Alliance Racing there. You see Fleislow, Callisto, and Bennett's name in there. Also, Smitty is involved on this one, but I think we have some inside news about Michael Smith, so it's kind of cool. Good to hear that. We haven't heard much from Tom. I'm not sure if Tom was actually racing much this season. Elite West Racing, 103 points back, just 5 points ahead of Mountain West Motorsports, Beltrami and Barnes on that one. Lovelady and Thompson up there for Elite West Racing. Riding Shotgun 1, that's Reynolds and Archer, the big scores on that guy. And then Rainier Racing rounding out in 5th position there, 148 points back. Finally, we look at what is my favorite one, is the Governor's Cup, and this is the battle between the clubs. This is the first season that the Northwest group has been challenged. Yeah, they're up by 275 points, but we need to take into account that they got 3,500 as their total. Really, 275 is just a drop in the bucket. West moves up a spot. Texas moves up a spot into second and third, dropping down 2 spots. My home state, California. But don't worry, we'll get back 318 back. And then new to the series, Canada and Great Plains running 5th and 6th. Joe?
Thanks, Bill, for getting us up to date on that. And let's get our viewers a little bit up to date of what to expect today, because this is going to be a little bit different from most of the Pac Majors races. They're doing it just like they do in the British Touring Car Championship, and that means 3 heats. First race today is going to be, well, all 3 are going to be 27 laps, but the first race is going to be set by qualifying that they had during this week. Then the second race is going to have the grid set by their finishing order from the first race. Third race, however, is going to have the finishing order set by the second race with a random number of cars inverted on the grid. We won't know how many that's going to be until we finish that second race. So it'll be very exciting to see what that winds up being. Now, you talked a little bit about the track, Jake, and with this being such a short lap, I have to imagine they're very short on passing zones. Where are guys going to be looking for that?
Coming into Paddock Hill Bend is going to be one of those key opportunities. It's down the hill, right-hander, one of the biggest downhill sections in all of motorsport, and then that run up through Druids is going to be so crucial. Side by side is going to be the key. Also look at clearways as well. There's always going to be a little bit of an opportunity, but I myself want to take a point out here about why this event is so crucial. British Touring Car is absolutely everything, and you talk about the drivers there in British Touring Car. Who is more synonymous right now as a rising star than Ashley Sutton? And he is one of those drivers who is so influential with the Kia Optima in the iRacing service. You have to say, it all feeds back full circle.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how it works out here with a bunch of drivers who aren't familiar with this car. We tend to get at least a few guys who are specific to certain cars that we run in the Pacific Majors, Bill, the Indy car, things like the HPD, the Gen 6 NASCAR cars. But the Kia is a lot more of a specialist car, and a lot of guys have said they've never driven this thing before.
I was talking to Joshua Wolf before the race. He has made the top split. Yeah, it's a learning curve for a lot of these guys. In fact, Joe, I'm surprised to see so many big names. I guess whether you're fast in a car, you know, you're fast in a car you don't know as well. A lot of the big names still in here in the top split. And remember, there are 2 splits on this one, maybe even more than that.
I think 3, actually.
Yeah, right. So it's one of the beauties of this series, that they have to qualify all week long. You have to earn your spot. Qualifying goes on during the week. So, and not only that, they demand that you put in the practice time. So yeah, it's exciting, but yeah, we're going to see the same names that we're seeing up there. Blake Reynolds and Pfeiffer, Thurnhorst up there. We'll see though, Joe, while they might be fast, we'll see how they race.
Yeah, that is going to be the big thing. Such a different style of racing, almost kind of NASCAR-esque, if you ask me, where you really got to be willing to bump and bang a little bit to make any forward progress. Also, apologies to our British fans that I was referring to Clearways as Surtees and Clark in the lap guide. My poor American brain wasn't fully up to date on the corner names, thanks to that we have Jake here. This is why we brought a Brit in to cover this with us. With these short races, though, Jake, I have to imagine, especially once they have that inverted grid, I expect a lot of aggressive moves. Is that really the way to go in these cars?
It has to be at times, because when you do have to get into that aggressive mode, no one's going to let you go through and decide that place is yours. I'll hark back to the World Touring Car Championship, the first season that the 7-time rally champion in Sebastian Loeb joined in, had a conversation with Ivan Muller. He asked him, how do you pass in this car? Well, you have to bump cars out of the way. Well, isn't bumping cars out of the way illegal? Yeah, you have to try and work your way around. So how on earth do I pass? You bump cars out of the way. It's not against the rules here. Well, it is against the rules to push cars out of the way. But by the same volition, it's a contact sport. It's not a non-contact event, this one. So you have to push your way past, but you've got to be very discreet.
And they do have live marshals in this series, and they did say that they are holding the same driving standards as always. So as Jake was describing, very much the way it's going to be. You got to be careful if you want to play some argy-bargy out there. You can't really punt people off the track. Now, the other thing I wanted to get on to, Jake, while we've got you here in the intro, is we've heard a number of drivers in the pre-race that weren't terribly happy with this car, that they've really kind of some didn't even consider this a racing car, but you look at its history, this is a full-blown racing car. It's actually won championships.
It has, and in terms of the American Touring Car Series, it has been so influential in its game against the Cadillac that it is one of these cars that, you do find a little bit underrated in terms of the format. They've brought the speeds down over it over the past couple of builds, so that's not been too helpful. But when you look at the sort of pace that this car can do, although it can't really hold it in the corners, this car can go quicker than some of your GT3 vehicles. I've seen it outmatch and beat a Porsche 911 down the Dottinger Ho. It's one of those cars which really does really test you how to drive. And if you really want to get into GT3 racing, I'd say this is the car that is the prime example of getting you up to speed.
So for all the doubt whether this is a racing car, I guess there's your answer. It is no slouch. I can attest to that from the times that I've gotten into there. So looking at our winners so far this season, Bill, we've had Lovelady in round one, a newcomer really breaking the mold there. Reynolds came on strong, taking the 2.4. Mark Walls, Mr. Beard, came in for the Daytona 501. And then we had Jason Fleischle taking the next Predator race at Sebring. Who do you think is going to be able to take this round? It's so different from all the other races we've had so far.
Yeah, based on it being so different, I'm going to take the guy that I think is best in whatever you throw him in. And right now he's sitting 6th in practice, and that's Lionel Little Train Callisto. I'm always surprised. You may not see him up front. I think this format is going to play into his strengths. He may not actually win an event, but watch when you add up all the points here at the very end. I wouldn't be surprised if Little Train has the majority of the points when we're all said and done.
Jake, you were looking at Lyndon Swaby. You said he's a regular. How do you think he's going to fare today?
I like Lyndon Swaby as a driver. I think that what he showed in a touring car over the past 6 months to a year, I think he is a very, very astute driver. He can put in a really good performance in the middle of the pack for this one here in the top split, but when it comes down to that random number reverse, I think he'll be a driver who can get himself through, and for the great country of Canada, I think he can do them proud.
Which is still a province of England, isn't it, technically? So, of the UK?
Yeah. A province, maybe. Part of the Magistrary's empire, certainly.
There we go, yeah. So I mean, technically British, right?
Yeah.
You'll be able to accept them. All right. Real quick, before we get to the grid here, which is only about a minute away, we want to give a big thank you to the official sponsor of this race, Volt Vapes, for putting on the opening round of this British Touring Car Championship race. Well, technically the British Touring Car Championship opener is what I need to be calling it. So definitely a huge thanks to them for all that they've put into the Pacific Majors. They've been a big sponsor of this series for a number of years, and without them, we wouldn't have been able to organize and promote this as well as we do. So thank you to Volt Vapes. Go check them out. We'll have all kinds of advertisements going out throughout to tell you how to get a hold of them. 16 seconds left to go. Warm-up is looking very kind to Blake Reynolds, who currently tops the practice charts. Jimbo Pfeiffer as well, looking very fast there. Matthew Thunhorst, a driver who's been faring well in the upper mid-pack in other races, but has got himself up into third in the practice times. Maybe he could possibly do well. Jason Fleischle carrying his momentum off of the Sebring race to get himself fourth in the practice times. And as the clock ticks down to 0, we're going to get to the grid just about now. If my timing and scoring will tick over. There we go. So on the pole, it's going to be Lionel Callisto with Claude Belval starting in second, Blake Reynolds in third, and Brandon Chappelle in fourth. Jason Fleischle will start the race in fifth with Michael Lane in sixth, Patrick Fleming in seventh, Wayne Hutchison in eighth, David Baker in ninth, and Ray Partridge will start in 10th.
Richie Hearn's going to go in 11th, Joshua Wolf behind him. Baker's dozen position goes to Brian Bennett. Mark Herzog in 14th. 15th is Trevor Clement. All ribbons and curls in 16th is Christopher Sherburne. Trevor Varun Varosky in the 17th position. Brian Barnes and Jimbo Pfeiffer right behind that. Rounding out your top 20, Rob Gall. Jake?
And in 21st, we got Michael Thompson joined by Brian McGreevy here. Bob Beltrami there in 23rd. 24th goes to Mitchell Cornett. Matthew Thunhorse there, surprisingly down the order in 25th with Brian Grandin. Kyle Burney there in 27th with Lyndon Swaby, my favourite here to get a win somewhere down here. Mike Franklin and Scott Gruber round out 30, and one more makes Mark Walls.
Lights are up, and they're doing it traditional touring car style from a standing start as they take off. Oh, horrible start from Lionel Kalisto. Very bad start as he immediately loses the lead to Claude Belval. He's going to lose even second place as Blake Reynolds sneaks around him as well.
A little bit of contact in the back as well, and that is to be expected here in the runs down towards turn number 1. Paddock Hill Bend now to Druids, 3 wide in the middle of the pack. Got to go careful, boys. A little bit of contact between a couple of people there, but they all seem to manage and survive pretty well through there, Joe. As you can see there, side by side, still Kalisto is under a lot of pressure, loses out to Belval actually, and that's first to fourth in the blink of an eye.
Brian Barnes has had trouble.
As they come around to complete the first lap. Yeah, a little bit of argy-bargy, in fact, as Kalisto got shoved out of the way by Belval. And Partridge, what's happened to Partridge here? I'm hearing that he's run into some trouble. Oh, he goes way off coming through clearways. But let's go to Jason Fleischle, who's managed to sneak his way up into second from 5th at the start. What a phenomenal first lap for Jason.
Oh, absolutely. It was a fantastic start for Jason Fleischle, and he'll now look to try and use that to his advantage here. Blake Reynolds will be under a lot of pressure now as they head into Graham Hill Bend, turn number 3 on circuit now. Use all of the advantage on the right-hand side. You can get away with it. Too much, though, and it will start to fall away from you. Reynolds just needs to hold on here. It's a 2-car breakaway, and you can see it again. Oh, a huge slide from Blake Reynolds. Can he hold on to it? Yes, he can, but now look down the inside. All momentum gone. Fleischle to the lead.
From 5th to 1st in only 2 laps, Jason Fleischle showing to be a force here in this first 27-lap heat race. Blake Reynolds gets slotted back in a second behind them. There's a battle for the final podium spot. A little bit more contact between Claude Belval and Lionel Kalisto, and once again, Little Train cannot get it done.
Boy, he tried to tuck it up in there, and Belval said, not this time.
Not short of action here in the opening laps. Your top order just to get you up to speed. Fleischle, Reynolds, Belval, Kalisto, Fleming, Baker, and Lane, the top 7.
Yeah,
push. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, certainly. You can see everyone is trying to push and shove, and this is the style that they have to play. They've got to learn how to do aggressive driving, but safe driving at the same time. I mean, look at a driver like Michael Lane here in the 62 trying to get past David Baker right now here in the 33. Needs to work on this one to get back into position, but for the moment, it doesn't matter what you do in these early stages. It will come down to the mid part of the race where the true metal will be tested here.
Just to follow up on what Jake said, yeah, this is the most pushing and shoving that I've ever seen in a Pac Majors race, but it was all very gentle. The cars all kept going straight, even when they were off on the grass.
Joshua Wolf looking to be a little bit under threat from Richie Hearn as they come through Druids, but he stretches away coming out of that hairpin, getting himself a little bit of a gap. With this being such a short lap, there's not much room to hide as all the cars are still very close together, and they're already going to be approaching traffic, which could come into play.
It certainly can here, Joe, and well, when you look at traffic, it's about getting out of the way as quickly as you can, and when you have to deal with traffic like this, sometimes you do have to liken it to an oval race. Kalisto now looking all over the back of Belval, down the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. There wasn't enough room there, but they touch, and round goes the driver of Kalisto. Belval into the gravel at Paddock Hill, and Kalisto drops 10-15 positions.
Manages to keep it out of the wall, but let's look at that replay. It was a brave move. He almost made it work the first time around. Seemed to go a lot worse the second time. Maybe broke a little bit too late, and everybody did a good job avoiding that car spinning off into the kitty litter.
Bad news for him is he's fallen down the standings. Good news is there's an inverted start for the next race.
Well, there's no inverted start for the second race. It's for the third one. Yeah, so he's going to have to climb back through in the second race unless he manages to make up a lot of positions all the way down to 14th now.
Your hard charger is Jake's pick, Lyndon Swaby, running now in, what's that going to be, 15th position, up 13 spots.
Yeah, Lyndon Swaby just picking and choosing through the traffic. When you deal with this sort of race, you have to, in the words of a good friend of mine here and a driver of Cesare Rizzo, you have to roll the dice. It doesn't matter what move you make, whether it's going to be trying to aim for a 1 to 4 or for a 6 on its own. You roll a dice with this car and you hope that it sticks. And for the moment, Swaby has stuck very, very well. Look at Christopher Sherburne, though. He's got Jimbo Pfeiffer right behind him as well. Jimbo Pfeiffer, any relation to Michelle Pfeiffer? I'd like a number.
Well, in the meantime, as that was happening, we had an aggressive move for the lead because Jason Fleischle has given it up to Blake Reynolds. That was in Druids that he managed to outbrake him. Fleischle still taking a peek to the inside as they come down to Paddock Hill Bend, already on lap 7 as they tick off on this 27-lap race. This time, no move from Fleischle as he follows him line astern down into Druids.
The front two have about a 3-second gap over Bebal, trying to get, Fleming is really giving him a tough run of it.
Yeah, now that Fleming is the one to replace Little Train, he's taken up where Lionel has left off, being very aggressive, and Pfeiffer...
Oh, we got to roll him. Talk about Pfeiffer. He's barrel rolling down the track.
That's coming down
Sherburne.
towards... Yeah, it's coming down to Graham Hill Bend, and that, in my opinion, not enough room left by Jimbo Pfeiffer there on the outside. It's so easy to do to try and lean on these cars, but Sherburne had nowhere to go. He was stuck in the middle of the circuit. He's managed to turn that car around, but he's now at the back of the field.
Gonna watch it one more time, and you can see as he tracks out, oh yeah, just gets into him. They hook up, and it's bad news. Mitchell Cornett also, I think, got a little piece of it, possibly. If not, it was a very narrow escape as we watched from the onboard of Sherburne.
My wife's going to be disappointed that our director did not let us go on board with Pfeiffer.
We don't need vomit bags for our viewers, Bill. So
She loves it when that happens.
Still, though, you look at this, Dave Baker here is under threat still, though, from Michael Lane. Look at his train here behind for the final step on the podium. There's about 6 cars here, all line astern. Richie Hearn there, the IndyCar driver, or the former IndyCar driver in there as well. Joshua Wolf making some great inroads then up through the field as well. So, you are seeing here the best of the drivers are now starting to get themselves towards the front of this field. Qualifying doesn't amount for everything in this car.
Once an IndyCar driver, always an IndyCar driver.
Well, and I was going to ask you about that, Jake. I have to imagine there's at least a little tire fall off with the fronts doing both amounts of work. Is racing and qualifying 2 different approaches to how you drive this thing?
Absolutely, 100% is completely different. These tyres will drop off of a cliff after about 15-20 minutes. You have to manage the tyres through every little inch of this circuit, and especially when you're going hard at it, you see the target in front of you, you completely forget about that and just focus on the car ahead. Those who save their tyres get themselves through this race. It is as simple as that.
Watching Michael Lane, he was all the way up on the back of David Baker, but couldn't make anything happen. Now he's got Josh Wolf, which you mentioned, very much threatening him. And how about Josh Wolf? We're used to seeing him as an oval driver, and in these road course races, he has really come to the fore, Bill.
Talked to him before the race. He said he figured something out. He didn't want to tell me what it was, but he said it's opposite of what you thought it would be. He was surprised that it works, but he was happy with what he found. Our leader's now starting to come up on some lap traffic. They just got around, Jimbo Pfeiffer's still out there, apparently.
Yeah, got the car going again. We mentioned earlier, you really don't want to be coming in for any sort of pit stops. They do get a free car, so they have 1 free repair if they have incidents. I'm going to assume that Jim came in for his.
Yeah, and you assume right there, Jimbo Pfeiffer then gets himself that free fast repair, gets himself forward the gap, 0.4 of a second though at the front of the field, but they've already pulled out a 5-second margin here to Claude Belval right behind. The difference of 48.5, meeting the 48.2 of Fleischle there just in second. But look at this train, it continues to grow then. You can see Hearn on the back, and now Wayne Hutchinson getting on the back. Maybe Trevor Vroom Vroom Vavrovsky then going to get onto the back of that as well. I'll get that nickname right at some stage during this broadcast, but you can see now Fleming doesn't need to be patient anymore. He's got to try and get to the front of the field. And to think in this event right now here, Joe, when you're looking at it, we're coming up towards halfway next time and the lap after that.
I got a hunch Pavel might be the slowest one of that bunch. Once he gets pushed to the outside, they may freight train him.
I would not be surprised. However, one surprise, am I seeing right that Lionel Callisto is not on the track anymore? What happened to him? He just disappeared.
Well, by my reckoning here, as we look at it, there is no instant limit, so that may just be a technical fault for Lionel Kalisto, and that's got to be heartbreaking for him if he's just had an instant like that. He actually made the move down the inside in towards turn number 1, Paddock Hill Bend, and that is a technical issue for him, not what he wanted.
And Claude Belval might finally lose this position as Patrick Fleming is trying hard around the outside of clearways. Can't quite get it done. Maybe the over-under coming off the corner tries to get as much grip as that car can possibly get on both front tires. Now they're coming down the front straight. He tucks in behind, trying to get all the draft he can down to the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. Outbreaks him, but can he get the car turned into the apex? Just barely coming back at him. Belval's not giving up. That's going to give him the inside up into Druids, down to the break into this hairpin corner. And just when he thought he got it done, Fleming has to give it up. Look at all check up behind him, Jake.
Oh, that was so close there, and you saw there trying to take that title line was Patrick Fleming there. Baker almost took a dozen out of him there. You see now Hearn now trying to get onto the back of Josh Wolf. That's how much it all closes up, and well, it's not a bad thing actually being slow at the front of this train, because you will get yourself great group position for that next race if you're the likes of, say, Claude Belval. I know exactly how that position feels, Spa-Francorchamps, about 3 weeks ago, Soup. You know that it's so difficult to pass a guy who puts the car in all the right places.
Absolutely. Right now, this is the great battle. We're watching the best one right now, the battle for third.
At some point, I wonder when this is going to tip over and spill, because look at how many eager cars are now stacking up behind, causing lots of maneuvers behind them. Richie Hearn and Josh Wolf going side by side through Druids. Wolf's going to have the inside of Graham Hill Bend, and I think he's going to get that back. Hearn's going to come back at him with the over-under potentially. No, he's going to stay behind.
What happens with that train when they go into Druids, you either have the option of protecting the inside, which is the slower way around, or going the fast way and leaving the inside open, and that's why they're starting to go 2 by 2 every time they go into Druids.
Belval causing frustration. Go ahead.
Another thing that's starting to become a bit of an issue, this track is heating up so much right now in terms of this racing. You're now looking to try and pick and choose different lines because you're running the same sort of track. It doesn't get any chance to ferment. It doesn't get any chance to rest. So you now find yourself everyone running the same line. Look at his second group as well. Swaby is now up into 12th position.
Yeah. This is going into the first corner. Clement. Oh. And then they found him.
And he gets hit by Christopher Sherburne, and I'm not sure who else that was.
Michael Thompson. Michael Thompson T-boned him.
And I think this was the Mountain West team. Alliance Evolution for Trevor Clement. And Thompson is trying to figure out which team he's involved in here. I believe it's Mountain West team. I'll double check on that for you in a little bit, but couple drivers having a horrible first race on this one.
There's 2 more to go for them, so they don't have to worry about that much in terms of the racing going on. Points are there, and there will be prizes side by side, though, in the middle of this first pack. Wolf and Hearn still going at it into Graham Hill Bend. Of course, the former Formula 1 world champion that has been there, was driving a Lotus back in the day. You can see Hearn again now looking for the insides. They head up to the run to clearways, and for the moment, no, not happening.
As far as teams go, Joe, it looks like T-Mac Racing. They have Baval, who's racing in third, and then they also have a driver, I think it's Lane, running in sixth. Now, that's a name I wasn't familiar with. That racing team having a very good day here.
So we ride on board with Hearn with Elite West Racing. That was the team that I was referring to. I believe it was Elite West Racing. So close, but not quite. As actually, I'm watching Patrick Fleming, who's all over the back of Belval, almost gets a run from behind by Baker, but Baker can't quite carry the momentum.
You just feel someone has to act like Jason Plato in this situation. Only do what is needed to do and not what has to be done to get yourself up high. Doesn't matter where you finish, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. You got another race after this to get yourself into position for the reverse. Points are crucial here, but sometimes the finish is more important than going for the moves, and that's what Patrick Fleming has been doing right now.
Let's stay on this battle, but one thing we should mention about Lionel Kalisto dropping out, that has championship implications. Whoa. Just behind David Baker doing some Tokyo drift. What a great catch through Paddock Hill Bend.
look down the inside, tries Michael Lane, and he sends him to the outside of Druids. Great move then that we saw from Michael Lane. And the problem he had was David Baker, was he was stuck on the outside, 2 tyres on the grass. You can't afford to do that in this machine.
Boy, Lane opportunistic. Same thing with Patrick Fleming trying once again to go around the outside of Clearways. That tricky chicane entry, making it difficult to stay too wide. But maybe he can force him off the line, get the over-under on him. Just not quite, as once again the impenetrable Claude Belval holds on to that podium position.
The impenetrable Claude Belval. That's a movie I'd go see.
Gets a great run coming out of Patakill Bend to keep him from being under attack down into Druids. Fleming, though, feels threatened as he goes to the inside to defend from Michael Lane, as once again they all accordion together, starting to feel like a New York traffic jam out here as drivers just have nowhere to go in this truly train that keeps forming bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you can see also the lead battle now starting to get a little bit closer as well. Fleischle has not got away here from Blake Reynolds when they cross the line. 8 laps to go. Time goes quickly here in an event like this. They all need to work together. And with this car, I have a feeling of what you need to work on this one. It's a difference of being slow in, fast out. That's one of the fundamentals. The other fundamental, though, is that you have to make sure that you know how to turn in this vehicle. Fleming again with a big look and still can't get it down done.
This point, what do we see of a frustrated Patrick Fleming? To move behind them, is that Richie Hearn and Josh Wolf yet again? It looks to be. Is Wolf, is he going to be able to hold on to it this time? He's a little bit farther back. He could set it in deep if he wanted to. He's got track position. Hearn gives him room, but he gets it done around the outside of Graham Hill Bend.
Well, hats off there on that move, and getting it around the outside at Graham Hill Bend is not the easiest way to do it. You can see just how they bottleneck up in front, battle for the podium still. Fleming still can't find a way through Belval. He does have that opportunity to wait, can choose to save fuel. This car does guzzle its fuel quite a lot. They've opened a 10-second gap though, Fleischle and Reynolds, and again another look down to the inside, and he gets close, and Belval holds on again.
Just unreal. Meanwhile, that gap between Fleischle and Reynolds up at the front is now down to 0.3 of a second. Only 2 car lengths between them, and they are coming up on lap traffic in the form of Mark Wallace. This could get in the way of things. Let's wait and see. Walls goes wide around the outside. You can see Jason already thinking about maybe what could be possible. He tucked his nose in through Clearways, but couldn't quite get it in there. Now they sneak by down the front stretch, coming up to Patakill Bend. And still nothing doable for Jason Fleischle as he sits and waits patiently in that second place position. Oh, but we got the battle for third coming back on again, looking around the outside. Patrick Fleming tries it, but I think that was a bad move from the start as he goes out into the kitty litter. And here comes Michael Lane up the inside. Thank you very much.
Oh, they touch! Oh my goodness me, they touched, and round goes the driver of what was in the end going to be Michael Lane, I think it was. Yes, it was. He loses so much time in that position, and now it's the Baker boy who is there in fourth, and Belval is away.
Grinning ear to ear, David Baker taking 2 positions in one go. Here, watch this. Sees it coming, ducks to the inside, sneaks through and says, "Thank you, I'll have another."
Certainly will. Well, you sometimes need to have a bit of fortune in this event, and they certainly have in terms of this. But Fleischle had an awful Patakill Bend last time by, and that's what caused him to get that gap to 0.6. He's brought that back again here, Joe, so it's not over.
Not over by any stretch of the imagination as we watch our 2 leaders with the 5 laps to go in this first race.
Let's go to 12th position real quick. This is our big mover, Brian Grandin. Just got punted. He's going to be able to save it. This is going into the first corner. He was being challenged by Kyle Burney. Burney really gave him a bump, turned him completely sideways. He brought it back, did not lose the spot. Watch this. This is Grandin in the yellow car. And you're going to see boing. Puts it out into the sand, gets it going straight again. Not a spot lost.
Nice
he
car
is up.
Control.
Grandin up 14 spots. Started 26, running in 12th right now.
Similarly, Patrick Fleming lost a few more positions. He's down to 9th after he went wide coming through Druids. Go ahead, Jake.
Stole my point.
Sorry about that. I noticed that as everything was happening, it seems like in this very typical touring car race that we've come to expect. The leaders now only 2/10 apart, and they're going to be 3 laps to go, this time at the line.
Coming up on Bob Beltrami, one of the first back markers. Good news for these guys is the back markers are well spaced out. There's not a real herd of them for the leaders to get around.
And bad news for Jake's favorite Swaby. Had something happen in Druids, I'm not sure what. Oh, they went 3 wide.
Yeah, it's not too akin there. There was a slow car in the middle as he came down in. He had too much heat of steam, and that Swaby turned around. Not the result he was wanting. He was falling down as well. But now look at the front, though. They are being caught here. And now Bob Beltrami now will become the next car to be lapped right now. Reynolds tried to run away from Fleischle, and Fleischle is not giving up.
Which, apologies to Swaby. It's always nice to see the guy doing the dive bombing to come away the worst for wear.
All right, Beltrami the Salami, is he going to get out of the way? He ducks it a little bit wide, gives them room, and I think they should be able to sneak through. At least we should see Reynolds get by. Question is, can Jason Fleischle get through in time, or is he going to have a buffer as they go through this first corner? Breaks a little bit early, lets him on the inside. Hold on to it, Bob. He gets a little sideways, but the Salami manages to stay out of it.
He does, and he does a very good job of things right now, but that gap for Fleischle just keeps opening up, and Reynolds is just managing this one, doing all that he needs to do. He just wishes, sometimes you could say here, for the driver of what is Jason Fleischle, that his Kia Optima becomes a Subaru BMR, because that would be a whole lot easier for him in terms of a British supercar look, but he doesn't, and he has to deal with the tools that he's got there. White flag will come out this time by, and the gaps keep going. Baker still looking at the podium here. Belval under so much pressure.
Keep our eyes on the leader just in case. This is the fight we need to watch. Is Jason Fleischle going to send one in at the last moment here with 1 lap to go now? Down through Paddock Hill Bend they go. A little bit too far back. Way off the apex, though, for Blake Reynolds. That costs him some time. Jason Fleischle is a lot closer. Is he going to have a go? No, not into Druids. Just a few more corners left. There's nobody in front of them. This is only our 2 leaders. Now less than a car length back. Jason Fleischle down into Paddock Hill Bend. Loses grip coming, or down into Graham Hill Bend. Loses grip, goes wide, and there it goes. Unless a big mistake happens from Blake Reynolds, this race is his. 1 more corner, clear ways to go. The long right-hander onto the pit straight. And as Blake Reynolds rounds the corner and comes to the line, race 1 of today is going to go to Blake.
Looks like the impenetrable Claude Belval is going to hang on to 3rd.
Well, someone needs to find an Imperial iron wall to try and break through, and I'm not sure even the greatest bit of nuclear warfare will stop Belval. What a great 3rd place it was for him. Baker 4th, and the dozen comes in after him. Hearn, Wolf, Vavrovsky, Lane, Fleming, Hutchinson, Cornette as well in that group, and that's pretty much 10-car split by 5 seconds.
Kyle Burney in 12th, your big mover. Started 27th, up 15 spots.
Bennett comes in after him. Grandin, McCreevy. A lot of cars coming in one after another. We'll wait for them to finish, and I believe we're going through the results before we go to break. I'll double check with my director. Yes, we are, so let's just let the cars stream on in, and I think that should be everybody on the lead lap. Yes, it looks to be the case. So let's go to our race results for Heat 1, and remember, this will determine the qualifying for Heat 2. Blake Reynolds was your winner, only 0.9 seconds between himself and Jason Fleischle at the end. He had to really put the pressure on. Fleischle in second. Claude Belval, who we can't give enough credit to, taking home that final podium spot. David Baker finishes in 4th, with Richie Hearn getting a top 5 from 11th. That's a great bit of spots earned by the former IndyCar driver. Josh Wolf as well from 12th to 6th. He followed him through the field. Trevor Vavrovsky came home in 7th, with Michael Lane in 8th, Patrick Fleming in 9th, and Wayne Hutchison rounding out the top 10.
Couple big movers next, 24th to 11th for Mitchell Cornette, and then of course the big mover that we talked about, Kyle Burney, 27th to 12th. Nice job from him. Brian Bennett and Brian Grandin behind them, 13th and 14th. 15th was Brian McGarvey. Rob Gall, Brian Barnes, and Scott Gruber are next, rounding out your top 20 in 19th and 20, Ray Partridge and Brandon Chappelle. Jake?
Mark Herzog then comes home in the blackjack position, and double deuce then for Lyndon Swaby. Not exactly the day that he would have liked here in race number 1. Mike Franklin comes home in 23rd. Cars then get a lap down. The likes of Bob Beltrami, Jimbo Pfeiffer having issues. Mark Walls there into issues, as well as Michael Thompson and Christopher Sherburn. Drivers that failed to finish this race today were Trevor Clement, Matthew Thunhorst, and also Lionel Callisto, your pole sitter.
I can't help but feel a little responsible for Lionel being down there in last, as I picked him to win.
Commentator's curse strikes again.
Oh, my
Poor
goodness.
Bill. Well, don't go away. We're going to have a quick break. Usually we tell you to don't go away because we have driver interviews and some other cool stuff. But this time we have driver interviews and more racing. We've got 2 more heats to go here in round 5 of the Pacific Majors, brought to you by Volt Vapes. Don't go away.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Volt Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013. And our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapors to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education levels so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build your own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch, where we're watching the Volt Vapes British Touring Car Championship opener. We just finished seeing Heat 1 of this 3-heat series tonight, and Blake Reynolds was your winner. Jason Fleischle was in second place, and in fact, he's managed to take a break as they repair his car, get it ready for the second race, to talk to us about how that went. And first of all, Jason, congratulations on second place here in this first heat race. Secondly, you went from fifth place to the lead in 2 laps. How did you manage that?
You know, the Red Sea parted in front of me, so to speak, a little bit. It wasn't me. I just, took advantage of some good fortune and having the inside lane, stayed on the inside and just rode it. And then, I got a run on that start of that second lap run after turn one on Blake, and in that, although I got on his outside, it just set up to get it done. So.
Well, it was pretty exciting from our viewpoint. Now, once Blake was able to get back past you into Druids, it kind of looked like you were faster than most of the end of the race. You were really holding on to his tail. Do you think you were faster? Do you think you had anything for him, or were you just kind of holding station?
Yeah, I think at the end of these things, I knew Blake was going to be strong in this race or this format, because it's just, it's disciplined and taking care of your tires. It's not locking them up under braking, not being too aggressive on turn in, definitely not too aggressive on the loud pedal when you're trying to exit. So I knew he was going to be good here. To be honest, I think he's a little bit faster than me. I was just holding on to him because of his draft. But you notice when I got out in front of him, I didn't stay in front of him very long. So.
Well, regardless, you put on a great show for us out there. How do you expect to fare in the next two heat races that we have coming up?
My setup's it's definitely more set up for the lower grip conditions. The next two races will definitely be a lot lower grip than that one. I'm surprised that I was able to go to the front and stay on the front. Maybe that's why. Maybe because I'm set up for the lower grip conditions. So it looks like Blake is too. And of course, that would be a trick of his trade coming from pro NASCAR. That's one of the things that Ray Alfalla teaches. Is set up for 100% track state and as low as grip as possible, because it'll reveal subtle imbalances that you won't catch under high grip conditions. So we'll see how everybody else is set up.
Yeah, I have to imagine the setup of the car is really important, and how this thing balances around these corners and how it works over the progression of the race. Well, the best of luck to you, and hope to maybe get to talk to you again.
Yeah, I hope so too.
That was Jason Fleischle, who finished for Alliance Racing in second place in this first heat race. And Bill, you're pretty familiar with Josh Wolf. Should we let you talk to him for next up?
I do. I got Howlin' Wolf here. He really didn't have a chance to let the big dog eat, as you were stuck in a train for most of the race. You happy with your sixth place finish?
Yeah, I'm happy. I definitely wanted to try and move up and get closer, so depending on what happens with this invert, I might be in a better position and just try and get good points for moving up in the driver's standing. So,
yeah. Now, our understanding is you're going to be qualifying sixth. They don't invert you till the third one, so you'll have to hang on a little bit for that. How did the tires feel at the end? Did you have to use them up to stay in there, or was it just because you couldn't really let the car loose? The tires in pretty good shape?
Towards the end, I started to fall off. I was definitely pushing. I was having trouble in turn two, but it was definitely a good car. Looking forward to the next couple and see what happens.
Okay, now before the race, you told me you found a little magic trick there that was working on the setup. You're going to let the cat out of the bag, or you're still keeping it to yourself?
I could say that the tire pressures were a little odd. I don't know if I really want to give the whole thing away, but
fair enough.
It's definitely different.
Okay, well, I can figure that out. That means they're either lower than you would expect or higher than you would expect, I guess. Well, thank you, Josh. Good luck to you the rest of the way. Maybe we'll talk to you again at the end of this thing.
Yep, hope to talk to you guys later.
Joshua Howlin' Wolf coming home in sixth in the first heat. Joe?
Just behind him, he had one of his fellow WSU drivers, Trevor Vavrovsky, coming in seventh. And I believe Jake is going to talk to him about how his race was also in the thick of that pack.
Trevor, a day where you get 10 positions in the first heat, it's everything you need as you get seventh for the start of the second heat that goes on. For you, a day in the middle of the pack, struggling against Claude Belval, holding everyone up. Is it a case of just trying to pick and choose your moments?
Yeah, it was a lot of kind of follow the leader and wait for them to kind of come together. That's how I actually made up a lot of my spots. Car wasn't that great, had a little bit of damage from the contact earlier, but yeah, it was just kind of wait for the mistakes and then try and capitalize.
You certainly have to around a circuit like this, and Brands Hatch Indy is one of the very tight and technical circuits, especially with that big drop into turn number one. How's the track been treating you then during practice?
Oh, it was great. Car felt great in practice. Was up in the top 5 and got into the race, and knew we had a rough qualifying starting back in 17th. And I said going in, I want to try and get up into the top 10, and more than happy picking up 10 positions, getting up to 7th.
Certainly are. And well, you look about going further into this, you talk about the drivers of top quality in terms of the Kia Optima. You look at the likes of, say, Wojciech Savidovic, Stelian Czepelewski, Ashley Sutton. You look at the likes of Kip Stevens, Dan Kraft, even the likes of, say, Ricardo Castro-Ledo, the Radicals Online, now starting to jump into it, and maybe even Blake Neck of Evolution Racing Australia. With such many high names now starting to move over to that Kia Optima in terms of big money prizes and just how amazing the racing has been, are you going to be one of those drivers to try and commit over full time?
No. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Kia. I like front-wheel drive cars, but for some reason, I'm not a huge fan of 400 horsepower trying to go through 2 tires that are trying to turn the car. I'll stick to kind of being a jack of all trades.
I'll get someone someday. Trevor Vorosky then coming home in 7th position overall. Joe, I believe you're stood by with someone else.
Yeah, in fact, I think we have a really great interview coming up because Bill is going to be talking to Richie Hearn.
No, don't do that to me. I'm gonna. Okay, do we have him in the booth?
Yes, we do.
Richie
Can you hear?
Hearn. Yeah. Hi, Richie. Remember when you raced at Indy? Boy, that was great. I'm sorry, man. I'm just so in awe to talk to you. How'd it feel out there today?
Yeah, it was a little tough. It's hard to pass without getting too physical. So I really just wanted to have a good heat on the first one, so I have a good start for the next one.
You know, we've been watching it. It's been a tough season so far for you. Really haven't got much luck in any of the previous races.
No, I've been kind of wiped out a couple times running up front. I'm pretty still upset about Sebring more than anything, and but at least I've been competitive and just looking for those top 5s and hopefully be in a place to win at one point.
Okay, I like to turn this around for drivers with real-world experience because everyone asks drivers, how does iRacing help your real-world racing? I like to spin it around. How does real-world racing, your experience in that, help you when it comes to simulation racing?
Well, honestly, this game is unbelievably, I'd say it's probably 99% right there. I mean, obviously you don't have the fear factor and things like that, but the emotional response and the way the car reacts and with setup changes, it's pretty much right on the money.
Well, man, it's great to talk to you. We're going to see you for 2 more heats. Thanks for racing in the series. I get a joy out of it. I mean, I'm a Indy fan all my life, and I remember watching, so it's great to actually be able to talk to you. It's really kind of a dream for me, so thanks a lot.
No problem. It's good to finally be up here, and I watch all the broadcasts, and hopefully I can do it again.
Okay, tell me, Paul Page and Joe Peak, real close, wouldn't you say?
Jeez.
You're probably better looking than Paul Page. He's not a very good-looking guy.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Richie Hearn, boy, that was a fun interview. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that, man.
You had to try and compare me to Paul Page. I know you had to get that one in. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we'll have time for Wayne Hutchison, possibly. I'm going to check with our director. He's not waiting in the ready for interview, but he did tell me he was interested in one. So let's try and get him mic'd up here real quick, make sure that he's not talking to anybody before we drag him into the booth. And we've got Wayne Hutchison in, who, if I'm looking at correctly, was the final driver in the top 10 for this first race. So going to be able to start 10th in the second race after starting 8th this time around. Do you think you can go forward instead of backward this time, Wayne?
I hope so. It's going to be a little slipperier in the second race. Probably another 20-degree track temperature. So I don't think you'll see as much of the single file, bumper to bumper racing as we just had. I think there'll be more cars sliding around, be more openings.
Now, we heard a lot of drivers complaining about the choice of this car being in the series this season. Now that you've gotten your first race in on it, first of all, have you raced in this car before? And what are your feelings after the first heat?
The car is completely different than anything else we've ever driven, but once you get the hang of it, it's no different than any other race car. It's fun. You just have to be careful with over driving it into the corners because it doesn't like that very much. So as long as you're you know what you're doing. You can get into the corner safely. It's fine. There's really no complaints from my end.
In the real world of touring car racing, we tend to see a lot of door banging, cars making contact with one another, and we pretty much saw a lot of that here today on the iRacing service. There was some pretty close and hard racing out there. Do you feel brave enough to really get your elbows out, or are you feeling a little timid to do that today?
I'll get braver as the heats go by. Right now, the first heat I was just trying to survive, keep a good starting position for the second heat. Hopefully it can move up a little bit, a 3 positions. And then, the third heat will be where you'll see a lot more banging of doors, I think, and people will get a little more serious about taking the win.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. Well, thank you for coming in and talking to us. We wish you the best of the luck in the final 2 heat rounds.
Thank you very much.
That was Wayne Hutchison, 10th place finisher here in Heat 1 of Round 5 in the Pacific Majors. We're waiting for the next session to come up as the organizers continue to work their way through the field to make sure everyone is gridded correctly. So I want to get you guys' thoughts as we continue to let that work its way through. Let's go to Jake first. You've covered a lot of these in other series with this coming to the Pac Majors. How do you think these guys fared for being a whole lot of newbies coming into this car?
I think they did rather well, actually, to be perfectly honest. You look at this car, it's incredibly difficult to work out, and sometimes you look at the sort of team mentalities that comes around from touring car racing. It's about a collective. It's about working together and being patient. It's about trying to pick and choose your moments, knowing who to attack and when to attack, knowing who the driver is that you can trust and who you can't trust. And that is very crucial, especially with loads of drivers who are completely new to all of this. You have to make sure it all works out in your favor. And you know what? I think they've done a very good job, and race 2 will be more of the same.
Bill, your thoughts?
Well, just to follow up, we talked about the different dedications that you needed to be able to race in this series. And sure enough, we talked about Blake Reynolds. And who do you find at the top of your finishing order here when it's all said and done? It's Blake Reynolds, for riding shotgun racing. So not only going to help him, but his team as well. I'd like to personally apologize to the friends and family of Lionel Callisto for picking him as my driver to win. We still have 2 more heats left. And this is Lionel's forte, though. This is his modus operandi. He's a slow starter, strong finisher. So don't count the little train out yet.
Well, and that's something that we need to talk about. He's going to be re-grid in this second race at the very, very back of these 31 cars, if they all show up. He might get lucky, and a few guys may back out in this next race, but even then, I don't expect him to be too far up the order. Jake, what's your advice to someone like Lionel having a mountain of cars to try and overtake?
Wait. Just wait, because it doesn't matter how much you try and force the matter and try and get through cars in this grid. If you just pick and choose your moments, make clean overtakes, almost imagine that you're playing for safety rating here, because the cars will come off in front of you, and what will happen in that situation is that you will pick up 5, 10, 15 positions by doing relatively nothing. Then you can go fight in the second half of the race, and then you will do quite a bit now to get yourself moving forward. There is so much that you can achieve from the back of the field, and you can actually get yourself up to a podium if you really work your cards right.
And Jake Sperry going to have some real good insight when it comes to the third heat, because we just did a race in the Apex Online Racing. It's the Formula 2.0 Championship that Jake raced in, and they have an inverted grid as well. And for the second heat with that invert, who'd we find up there on the pole? Well, nobody other than my partner right now, Jake Sperry. Did a good job up there, Jake, for a while. You held the lead for a while. So you're going to be very helpful when we come to the round 3, when we have some of these drivers. Although it's a little different, the quality between top and bottom, maybe not quite the same, no offense to you, as the quality from top and bottom that we saw in that AOR race.
Arguably yes, arguably no. I think there's some great quality in this event. And well,
that's what I mean.
What you find is that there are still going to be differences. How much disparity between them is going to be a little bit different. But when you look at lap times around here compared to, say, Spa-Francorchamps when that happened, the difference between 5 seconds and 1 second around here is completely justifiable in terms of time and events and dealing with different types of corners around here. So when you get right down to it in terms of drivers who will get that reverse and get to the front of the field, they've got to learn how to defend against quicker drivers. It's so difficult to do. You don't prepare for it ever in racing. iRacing doesn't teach you how to deal with quicker drivers behind you unless they make mistakes, unless they have damage. When you have to deal with a fully fledged, fully quick Blake Reynolds or a Kalisto or a Pfeiffer or whoever it is, it's a completely different world. You sometimes get that yellow helmet syndrome that we saw with Ayrton Senna back in the 90s. That is something that is going to be playing in the minds of drivers when that reverse grid comes along, and I hope some drivers don't feel that they don't belong.
Well, Joe, somebody who could teach a class, and that would be Claude Baval, who was maybe not the fastest of his train, but he brought it home in third.
Boy, Lord help us if Claude Belval gets regrid on the pole for Heat 3. Also, I love how Bill immediately tries to backpedal when he realizes he's insulting his co-host. So some of our viewers who might not be familiar with the British Touring Car Championship might be wondering, why in the world are they racing the Kia in a series that tends to put on races that basically mimic the biggest and most important races in the world? Well, for fans of British touring car racing, they're saying, of course, they had the British touring car racing mimicked here in the Pacific Majors. And they do swap these races out every once in a while. They have a few real world events that are considered sort of crown jewels: Daytona 500, Indy 500, Le Mans. They always have an F1 race and make sure they always have those. But then they swap some of them out. They're not going to have Spa this year. I'm sorry to those fans who love the GT3 cars around Spa. It will not be back in 2017. But this year, obviously, they brought in short track racing with a snowball derby for round one, and this British Touring Car Championship opener is mimicking the Real World's Race at Brands Hatch that they do over in that series. It really does bring out some of the best drivers in touring car racing into that series. Even though it's called the British Touring Car Championship, guys from all over the world do come in and try and drive over there. And
Joe, I'm looking here, July 16th. We're going to El Dorado for a little dirt.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get down and dirty, and we're going to see dirt for the very first time here in the Pacific Majors. But before we go to the next heat, we are going to take a really short break. We'll come back in a few moments. We're going to have the next bit of racing. So grab yourself, Jake, what's a good, I guess, biscuits? Is that a good snack to name for people to go and get before they come back?
Yeah, they could get some biscuits.
All right, well, go and get yourself some biscuits, maybe some tea, and we'll be back for Heat 2 here in Round 5 of the Pacific Majors.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013. And our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapers to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education levels so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher-end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build-your-own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch, where we're watching the Vapes British Touring Car Championship opener, round 5 of the Pacific Majors. If you watched the first heat, I hope you're ready for more of that, because we have round 2, heat 2, coming up in just 4 minutes time. And they're going to be grid in the order that they finished in the last race, which means if you saw any fast drivers fall by the wayside and have a terrible finish in heat 1, they are going to have some work to do here today, Jake.
Yeah, they certainly are, and this is a fantastic series to be working on. You get so many great drivers that have been here and that have been working to get themselves up to the top. You talk about drivers like Matt Neal, Alain Menu, Tim Harvey, Yvonne Muller you talk about the likes of Andy Rouse, John Cleland, talk about Steve Soper and Jason Plato. You can keep going on for days and days. The likes of Colin Turkington, Ash Sutton, you can drag into that list now pretty soon. There's so many names here in terms of touring car that are so synonymous, that are so successful, that have worldwide recognition for a British series. Everyone wants to be them. Everyone wants to live like them. Everyone wants to race like them.
And Bill, these guys have really got to work on the setup, because we mentioned some of them really have tried to dial these in. They're going to be at different lighting. You can see that last race was in the morning. We've now switched it over to the afternoon, so that sun is bearing down.
Track temperature was 80 degrees for the first heat. It's going to be 100 degrees for the second heat. So heat certainly is going to play a factor. You know, when these drivers first got into the sim here for the second round and they all were coming in here, it was a cacophony of apologies from everyone saying, I can't believe, I'm sorry I did that, no problem. A lot of thank yous, a lot of it's okays, but clearly some drivers were caught out surprised what the racing was like. I think we're going to look maybe a little different race now in the second heat. Maybe not quite as, maybe I'm not going to say not as much aggressive, but maybe not quite so many, the chrome horn maybe not used quite as much.
Yeah, it's hard to say, since it is the middle race and they know that they've got one more yet to go, and they do get the regrid, so the finishing order isn't necessarily going to be as important. It's difficult to say where you're going to be starting, especially if you're up at the top. You know, maybe you'll be starting in 10th place, maybe you'll be starting in 20th place. You don't know. So watch David Baker, not affiliated with a team out there today, one of the few, as a lot of guys have been working together with their teams on these setups and putting most of their heads together to try and play a little bit faster out on the track. There you see Jason Fleischle, currently first on the timing sheets, though, despite finishing second in the race before. Let's see if maybe he can move one more position up the order. If you're wondering how this is going to be scored, since this is 3 races in 1, they do get scored on each race. However, that does not count for the championship. The championship points are only awarded at the end of all 3 races, where your finishing order in each one will be scored up, and the one with the most points in the 3 races is going to get the points awarded according to where you finish from that sum of the 3.
So in other words,
that makes sense.
Yeah, you could be the overall winner if you finished like second, and 10th. If you score the most points, you're going to get as if you won the event. You'll be scored,
the event, exactly,
even though you did not win a heat. So that gives a little more incentive back there to my man Lionel Kalisto, who is back. He's coming back. Second fastest in practice right now, as he's going to be back at the back. But he'll have to make up whatever points he can in this one, and then get the regrid.
Which will mean that that consistency is a big part, which maybe played into why we didn't see Jason Fleischle try to be more aggressive out there, knowing that he could still win this thing without winning a race. But Jake, I have to imagine that still the prestige of being able to come away with one of the wins of these 3 heats kind of weighs on the minds to be able to take those bragging rights.
Yes and no in this situation. Yes, in the fact that you want to prove that you can be one of the quickest guys in a touring car. No, in the sense that in this second race, you know that it's going to be detriment against you winning this one. It's almost like do I really have to win this one? I may get points, but it's going to, do me over in the final race. You sort of get a second heart and a change of wind. Practice, you could say, is over. The grid coming shortly there, Joe.
Yeah, your ego is not your amigo here on this thing. You have to settle for second. You can't win. You can't think winning is the only way to go.
We'll find out in about 27 laps time, but on the pole, once again, going to be Blake Reynolds, Jason Fleischle starting second, Claude Belval in third, David Baker fourth, Richie Hearn in fifth, and Joshua Wolf in sixth. And in row four, Trevor Vovrosky in seventh, followed by Michael Lane in eighth. Patrick Fleming will start the race in ninth, and Wayne Hutchison will round out the top 10, Bill.
Your next five are Marco Cornett, Kyle Burney, Brian Bennett, Brian Grandin, and Brian McGreevy. A lot of Brians in a row there. All ribbons and curls is Rob Gall in 16th position. Brian Barnes, another one in 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th are Scott Gruber, Ray Partridge, and Brandon Chappelle. Jake?
Yeah, and then you got Mark Herzog, Mike Franklin, Bob Beltrami there with Mark Walls, Michael Thompson in 25th with Christopher Sherburn, Trevor Clement, Matthew Thunhorst, and also Lionel Callisto as well, rounds out 29.
And lights are up. We're getting ready for the green.
Jump start by Fleischle.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Not good for Jason Fleischle. We'll see if he gets a black flag or not. It was very subtle on my screen. Our third place driver did not start the race either, as we're looking at too wide. Fleischle starting to lose that place. Is that Vovrosky losing it? No, that's Richie Hearn. And they're going to go 3 wide potentially on the first lap up into Druids as Fleischle is way on the outside.
Richie Hearn. Vovrosky gets him. Vovrosky got into Hearns.
You just got to be careful here in these opening laps, boys. You don't want to be throwing away your opportunity. A car turn around in the back there. That's Bob Beltrami into the wall there on the run towards Graham Hill. There was a big incident there, and they have to just stay calm here and slow down penalties, the key order in the opening laps.
And poor Wayne Hutchison also lost a number of places coming up to Clearways as he's trying to get back into it. Still a lot of side-by-side racing as Fleischle is coming in. He is going to get the penalty. Gut-wrenching penalty for our second place starter.
Yeah, it certainly is here, and that's not what Jason Fleischle wanted. He had to release off the brake. He could have gone and just gone completely off the start if he wanted and just tried to run it and actually save some time. Not the ideal way there, but it is a jump start, and they do happen from time to time. Gotta keep alert here. Maybe 2 in the mornings for me, but I'd never do a jump start. No siree.
2 cars less started this race, so despite fewer out on the track, I think we've seen more contact here in the first lap, way more than the first race. And your order after that first lap is over is Blake Reynolds leading. Richie Hearn has moved himself up into second, and Josh Wolf is hounding him for third.
Brandon Chappelle is on a mission. He just picked up 2 more spots. He is now up into... what is it going to be, about 8th position, 10th position, up 20 for the day, or up 10 for the day.
Yeah, he had to play a little bit of argy-bargy for that spot as last lap through. He made contact into Paddock Hill Bend, but both managed to get through. We had a car lose position. I think that was Brian Barnes. No, it might have been Brian McGreevy, excuse me, who went off into the kitty litter coming out of that first corner.
Well, you have to say it's the life of Brian right now, as there's too many Brians to really keep a note. There's 3 Brians all line astern here, and you can see P2 here, Richie Hearn under a lot of pressure then through the corner. You can see behind that, though, Vovrosky's going to take Wolf's position. The 2 teammates then are going to jumble up and change positions. Vovrosky now needing to use that to his advantage, and for the moment you can see another little look then coming along from Josh Wolf. Can he get the position? No.
Rule number 1, don't take out your teammate, as he was a little circumspect with Vovrosky going off, continuing on, doesn't lose the position, looks to the inside, down into Druids on Richie Hearn. Hearn holds around the outside, and it's going to switch back to the inside of Graham Hill Bend, and still keeping that position, or is he over under from Trevor Vovrosky? This is the wrong spot to be in, though, because as it comes back to the right for Clearwaters, I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to try and get it around the outside. He's a little brave on the brakes, but I don't think he's got the momentum.
No, I don't think he does either here, and you can see they're out of clear ways. It just wasn't going to work. Oh, there was a little bit of contact there between the drivers of Vovrosky and Hearn. Hearn now holding on to the outside in towards Paddock Hill Bend, and you can see on the outside it's never going to work. Trying to find the parabola, gonna run the gravel here to get himself around the outside again into the next right-hander of Druids. I don't think it's going to work, but he will have the inside then as they come through Graham Hill. Great setup work from him there. He gets the position into second.
Vovrovsky with a beautiful run. I almost wonder if some of that was maybe Hearn deciding that he's had enough of this and pulls out of it. He slots back into third, and now they are finally all line astern. Second, Vovrovsky. Third, Hearn. Fourth, Wolf. And fifth, Baker in this once again.
Yeah, he certainly is. He is, and look at this. This train just goes back and back and back and up to 16th. Yeah, it's a 14-car train, 15-car train even here that we're seeing right now. And all at the front is that linchpin here as Blake Reynolds has got a 5-second gap in the opening 5 minutes. Unprecedented, Joe.
This has to be exactly what Blake Reynolds was wanting, just running all by his lonesome. The Texas driver is not bothered, and he's only 6 laps into this 27-lap race. All he has to do is keep the pace as we go back to second place. Vovrovsky, he is now the plug in the spigot. But can any of these guys get up ahead of him? Or is Vovrovsky going to be able to pull away? Or we're going to see a repeat of last race?
Well, the big thing about this, though, is because there's this massive train here, it's just allowing other drivers towards the back of the field to get themselves back in. Drivers like Lionel Kalisto right now here, Joe. You look at him in the number 2 machine, he's there and he will be close to the back of this pack and can just weasel and worm his way one car after another. Good run from Hearn, though, coming out of Paddock Hill. Has the run to Druids. Will he make the move? No. He backs out of it and says, nope, that move is not going to work in my favor.
Indeed, as they come back down out of Druids, for those who are fans of Lionel Kalisto, he's up to 18th at the moment, starting dead last on the field. So he is making his way through bit by bit.
Yeah, bit by bit is all that you need to do around this circuit. You've got to make it work for you. You've got to wait for those opportunities to present themselves. And when you're in the middle of the pack, you've got to make sure that you just wait on it then. You just make sure that you're just going to hold on to things as things stand right now. You look at Brian Bennett here. He's losing time here off of the back of, say, the driver of Mitchell Cornett. Cornett holding very well onto the back of Brian Grandin. They're running this very consistent pace, all of them. Here comes Baker then down to the inside. And, well, thank you very much, he'll say here, but is he going to get that move complete? The answer is going to be no. They're going to have to rely on Graham Hill, but he gets the up and under just about on the brakes. No, the nose is sent back in here. Inside line will always favour the Baker.
And Howland Wolf is just having a horrible race this time, as he's already been slotted back to 5th. Michael Lane looking on behind him, seeing if he can do anything. He enters the corner wide, trying to get a good run out of clearways, gets the power down, but they're about dead even.
They are about dead even here, and you're seeing here just how much the slipstream comes into play. You just lose so much time in terms of getting that ability to draft against another. What's also very interesting about that front straight is that it is not level at all, Joe. It is banked on towards turn number 1, and that is so much of an issue here, as you can see in the middle of that group then, and I believe that's Brandon Chappell trying to find a way through then in terms of this one here on Kyle Burney. Burney shut the door very firmly.
Hey, just to follow up on Jason Fleischle, he did do that stop and go. He's back out there running in 28th position. I guess the lesson to be learned here, if you're going to jump the start, do it on a heat that precedes another heat that's going to invert the grid.
Well, we don't know if he will be part of the inversion, though. We need to see how many cars.
That's very true. You're right.
They are going to swap around. They're starting to spread themselves out finally in this top group. Still Vovrovsky and Hearn close together in a battle, but Baker falls a little bit back. Wolf gets himself some space. Lane as well. And then we got a big little chunk down to Patrick Fleming in 7th position as they accordion together down into Druids.
Close at the moment, but at the moment it's just not close enough for anyone to really make that move. Side by side behind Wayne Hutchinson and Rob Gall going at it here in the 31. Gall will have the inside line here on Hutchinson. Hutchinson has to take the wide parabola, misses the apex completely, has a run though coming out of the corner, but they have to feel though that the drive is going to be all Rob Gall's, and there we go, position done, and that is position number 15.
And Hutchison might be looking in his mirrors now, because here comes Lionel Kalisto on a charge through the field. He's up to 17th already with that battle helping him to gain on these two guys. He is eyeing 16th position.
Yeah, and he's got a buffet laid out in front of him. As soon as he starts getting through these cars, he can pick them up one at a time. Our big mover so far, up 12 spots.
Hearn side by side, and now you can see him trying to work the outside on Vavrovsky, and Vavrovsky pinches him hard to the right-hand side. No way there for the experienced Richie Hearn to make that move forward. He'll have to find another way, Joe.
This is allowing David Baker to get right up on the back of these guys into the popcorn position. Up into clear ways they go. Vavrovsky taking a nice wide line, coming around, just clipping the apex and getting the power down. Obviously concerned about those tires in these hotter conditions, as we heard from Jason Fleischle, trying to keep them intact. It's a patient game that these drivers are having to play, fighting hard, but also taking care of the car. And whoa, who is that behind, sliding through Paddock Hill Bend? That's Josh Wolf, obviously struggling with his tires.
That Hal turning into a little bit more of a whimper right now here in this second race for Josh Wolf. He is starting to struggle now, and he is there holding on to 5th position, but it's so easy just to lose those gaps and lose those times. You can see you just run into a trance cycle right now where everyone just runs the same line, the same time over and over and over again. You look for a way through, and sometimes it doesn't quite happen here, but what you are looking at right now is a gap of 5.5 seconds to Blake Reynolds here. Trevor Vavrovsky then is going to be trying to play the role of what we saw earlier on in that event. Richie Hearn now still getting a little bit worked up here, still looking to try and get a little bit defensive maybe into turn number 1. When you have a train here, it's about the balance here, Joe, between attack and defense.
Hearn takes a little bit of a peek to the inside, but can't quite get it done. Cars coming together behind them. I believe that was Wolf and Lane going bumper to bumper, but no harm, no foul as they both continue on. Meanwhile, Lionel Kalisto back in 16th went the long way around Clearways, Bill.
He did. To get around Hutchinson, it took him a long time to do it. He got it made. He's up now one more position. He lost a little room to Rob Gall, but he still has enough time here with 15 laps to go to pick up probably another 5 or 6 spots.
There we see the Alliance racer. Boy, Alliance is not having a good second heat between Kalisto and Fleischle. This is going to hurt them in the constructors' points.
Certainly will do here, and you've got to play the team game, especially in here. Sometimes you need to work with your team to make sure you get one driver to pass ahead of another. Right now you can see a big dive to the inside from Joshua Wolf. He has to back out of it, and they check up again behind. It's almost like a traffic jam. Bit of contact between Brandon Chappell there and Brian Grandin now, who goes to the outside of this group. And no, that doesn't happen between the two teammates. The up and under comes back again here, and it does have the potential to work, but no, he has to back out of it there. Does Grandin there at the back of this train.
Once again, two teammates having to be careful not to get into each other. Those both elite West drivers. Is Grandin taking a peek on Chappell through clear ways, but he gets chopped off at the nose and can't do anything for that 9th position.
No, we certainly can't. Gall and Kalisto, though, going side by side, and Kalisto now starting to make up the inroads that we thought he would here. Second half of the race, we just get to start going side by side into Paddock Hill Bend, and Kalisto, thank you very much. That's going to be the easiest Paddock Hill Bend he will have for a long while. Gets all over that very high curb. Got to be careful with that curb, Joe. It's so easy to flip the car off of it, potentially, with just how abrupt it is.
About a second back now to get to the familiar color of Brian Barnes, running in 14th in his blue machine out there. Running in just ahead of him, Brian McGreevy in 13th.
There's we ride on board with Barnes and the Popsicle Machine. We'll have to ask him if we ever get him in the interview booth. What is with the Popsicle
Always
sponsorship?
Always in the Popsicle car, yeah. He's a cool customer.
Oh, you beat me to a pun. Anyway, he says he continues to ride behind McGreevy. No chance on that Hot Wheels machine as they come to complete yet another lap. Meanwhile, for fans of Blake Reynolds, yes, he's still in this race. He's still leading, and it's still 5 seconds between himself and Vavrovsky. Actually, I'm impressed that Vavrovsky has held this gap as close as he had with the way he's been battling with Hearn.
Completely different in my opinion here, Joe. I think Blake Reynolds has completely taken his foot off of the gas. You look at the times that he was doing at the start of this race. 48.2 is his quickest lap of the day, and he's just completely taken his foot off the gas. Then his last lap was a 50-second lap time. So in reality, Vavrovsky is dealing with the pressures. Blake Reynolds is just playing zero risk.
Got to be smart in these things. He knows he's going to get maximum points, and he really doesn't need to be as far ahead as possible. Just needs to get to the finish line to get those points today. Meanwhile, as we ride on board with the former IndyCar driver Richie Hearn down into Druids, they close together with Trevor Vovrosky, and still he has nothing that he can do. I'm wondering if this is what we saw with Jason Fleischle, Bill, where he said that he was able to stay on him due to the draft.
Yeah, and I was wondering, I was going to ask Jake if he thought draft was much of a factor here. I would think it would be.
And in terms of side-by-sides, we've just seen Rob Gall actually just run into the back of Wayne Hutchinson through the mid part of the corner. Here comes Mark Herzog then trying to get her way through, and he tried two ways and still didn't manage to get that sorted. Draft is key in terms of not allowing your opponent to overtake. It's not as advanced as, say, a Formula Renault or a Formula One car, but it's still very, very pivotal.
I don't think Rob Gall is out of the woods yet because Herzog's still very close behind him. About 2 car lengths back, not going to give him an opportunity down into Paddock Hill Bend. He takes a look anyways, and car swings wide, so does Rob Gall's. Neither of them gets to the apex. That means just behind them, Ray Partridge taking a peek on these guys, but he's not going to get an opportunity as Herzog sneaks to the inside of Druids. Can he complete the pass, though? We might see a little bit of a sneak back in from Rob Gall. No, he gets in the line as they come through Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, and a very, very astute move there from Mark Herzog. Then he holds the position and goes up then into 17th right now. And you can see here drivers like Lionel Callisto now on the back of Brian Barnes and Brian McGreevy. Brian Bennett just ahead of them. Lifes of Brian's is certainly going to be a place to go. There's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for you, as you see right now. Lionel Callisto right now close. No cigars here. He's got to play the waiting game. He doesn't know where the number comes along, but 15's a safe bet.
Speaking of the waiting game, last time into Druids, we saw Richie Hearn take a little bit of a peek up the inside. I don't think it was a serious move, but Bill, he's making those reconnaissance laps now. He's starting to poke and prod.
Absolutely. I was thinking the exact same thing. Plus, you don't know how much... Oh, look at this. I think he has a good run here. He's got a chance to make a run. Nope, he's going to get there too soon. You wonder how much tires he's saving as well. You don't want to use it up too early because then they can come back on you. Let's take a quick look at Callisto. When I last saw him, he was in a... Yep, here he goes. He's going to get another one. Making a move on Barnes now.
Popsicle machine to the outside. The Alliance Racer to the inside. Very late on the brakes down into Paddock Hill Bend. Manages to get it to the apex and still doesn't lose time to McGreevy in 13th. Such is the speed of Little Train as the car railroads its way up through the grid.
You have to say it is a driver of the day performance candidate here in this second race, up 15 positions already. You look at the likes of, say, Brandon Chappell up 12 only. So, you know, Callisto wants to be in this one for the final race and certainly has the pace to work it. But the question is, even in that reverse grid, who stops Blake Reynolds?
Well, Jason Fleischle is continuing on, but he's still in 28th position. Remember, he got a penalty, a stop and go for jumping the start. And I don't think, well, no, he might be able to get Scott Gruber. He's still about 4 seconds up the road, but he's going to have some tremendous pace to get him. Meanwhile, our director's laughing at us because apparently he knows how many cars are going to be inverted on the grid, but we do not. We'll find out soon.
So unfair.
Please share.
We'll save it. We'll save it until after this race finishes. Keep it a surprise for everybody.
Well, I know Fleischle is hoping for it to be a very big number.
28 cars, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually, in terms of how the event works, to see a number between about 8 and 14, in my opinion. That's very, very similar to, say, what you see in the British touring cars. It used to be a case that actually they got the drivers to pick out the numbers themselves. But then they decided, nope, we're just going to get a random official to do it.
Probably for the best, knowing drivers. Meanwhile, riding on board with Trevor Vovrosky, looking at once again the nose of that Kia.
Oh, let's go to Callisto.
Oh, now, it was big.
Yeah, now really it's probably McGreevy was involved in it. They're right in the mix. Callisto was part of it. I think Callisto's going to go away the cleanest. McGreevy kind of punted him.
I was going to say, it looks like, yeah, both Barnes and Callisto, you can see, managed to continue. But McGreevy, I think, was a little too late on the brakes, it looked like, Jake.
A little bit there. It was a very difficult corner to go in. There's two different lines you take it. The one that was taken by Kalisto, the one by McGreevy. McGreevy just got a little bit greedy there down onto the inside of the corner, and that's what caused the contact to happen there. And that's not the way you want to end the race, and it's not the way you want to be causing an incident. That's a little bit cheeky in my opinion when you're going from that far back to try and make a move like that.
Maybe you could say he got a little McGreedy. Our director liked that one. Anyway, so now 5 laps to go as we watch McGreevy, who is slotted down to 25th. This is not going to be good for him. Another driver who probably hoping for a huge inversion, but our leader, the riding shotgun driver, Blake Reynolds, looking to score, well, not score maximum points for his team, but I suppose that won't come until they finish the 3rd race, but definitely doing well for riding shotgun here today as he continues at just holding on to 5-second lead over Trevor Vavroski. Now 4 laps to go.
I got to figure with a win in the first heat and this upcoming win in the second heat, he can pretty much take his wife out to the movie and probably still win this event.
Not guaranteed. Not guaranteed at all here in this event, because you look at the way the reverse grid happens. Drivers who stay quiet in that opening 2 races, they get to the front and they take a win. They could easily steal it from Blake Reynolds. Blake Reynolds, if he doesn't finish that final race, he might not still take the win from it. He'll get great points, yes, but the win is still not decided.
We continue to watch this battle for 2nd place. They've split themselves up just a little bit, Hearn and Vavroski. I'm going back in to check on our favorite Charger, Lionel Kalisto, who's caught back up to Brian Barnes. Oh, actually takes a look and gets a nose in here, but can he get the drive off the corner? It's going to be a drag race down to Paddock Hill Bend, and Barnes actually might be lifting here, it looks like.
Certainly does look like it, and there is the position then for the driver of Lionel Kalisto then. Kalisto holds it, but he doesn't get the best run through Paddock Hill, and that's going to allow the cutback here for Brian Barnes, who's not going to give this one up. Down the inside into Druids is difficult. Oh, they come together, and there's Brian Barnes taking to the grass then. Position is Kalisto's, but that was a little bit forceful.
With 3 laps left, I think that's the end of the line for Lionel Kalisto train up to now 13th. I think he's not going to be able to get up to 12th.
Fans of Brian Grandin, we missed an overtake where he moved himself up into the top 10 over Mitchell Cornett, although that battle doesn't look to be over as Cornett is looking around the outside. Maybe he'll peek back to the inside as Grandin moves back to the racing line. No, he defends down into Paddock Hill Bend, tucks it into the apex. Could see an over-under as Mitchell Cornett gets a great drive coming off of that first corner. Gonna outbreak him down into Druids, just barely has them side by side around the 180-degree corner. Now down into Graham Hill Bend. It's going to be Brian Grandin who takes the inside, but an over-under once again, and they're still going to go side by side.
Yeah, this is fantastic action then, and Grandin, you can see, will have to relinquish that position to Cornett then, as the white flag will fly then, this time by for the driver of Blake Reynolds, who has been all-encompassing, all-dominant right now, and you still see drivers still trying to work out, where do I need to be in position, which one is the best one for me, how many points can I get, and Cornett still not out of the woods.
Our championship leader proving once again he is a force to be reckoned with, and it doesn't matter what you stick him in. Known a little bit more for his oval prowess, but coming to the front here on the roadside, even if it's a front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive car. Last time he had to fight off Jason Fleischle and withstood pressure. This time it was a cruise, flag to flag, for Blake Reynolds as he comes off of Clearways. Give the second win to Blake Reynolds.
Simply fantastic racing there we've seen from Blake Reynolds. He's just dominated once again. Vavroski then, a great drive from him, and you can see the train opened out towards the end of this event, and that's not the way that people would have seen to end it right now. But you know, there's still battles going on. Look at this, Hutchinson, Herzog, Partridge, Thompson, Sherburn, and Thunhorst right now, all of them line astern.
They kind of come across the line single file. Go ahead.
Brandon Chappelle comes home in 8th, up 12 spots. Good job from him. Kalisto's going to wrap up in, 13th?
Now, I'm not sure what happened to Scott Gruber. He seemed to have taken a tow on the very last lap. And I'm going back to see, he actually pulled off the track. Bizarrely, he didn't get punted as far as I can tell, but he just hit Paddock Hill Bend and decided not to hit the brakes.
Early night.
Apparently. Well, let's go through our results then, since everybody has crossed the line. That's going to be Blake Reynolds, as we mentioned, taking first. Trevor Vavrovsky in second. He is looking very good to take home a good points haul if he can get a good finish in Heat 3. Same thing with Richie Hearn, finished fifth the first round, third this time around. Then you've got David Baker, consistent up towards the top. He finished in fourth. Joshua Wolf, he finished in fifth. He started in sixth, so he only gained one position over the course of that race. Michael Lane, he came home in sixth position with Kyle Burney. Pretty good race today, coming home in seventh after finishing 12th last round. Brandon Chappelle, he finishes in eighth with Patrick Fleming in ninth. And Mitchell Cornett coming home in 10th. Bill?
In the next 10 that I call, 9 of them all have pluses when it comes to position losses or gain. Brian Grandin, 14th to 11th. Brian Bennett, 13th to 12th. Lionel Kalisto, 29th to 13th. You get the idea. Brian Barnes, 17th to 14th. Rob Gall up. Hutchinson, the only loser out of the bunch, 10 to 16th as he comes home in this Sweet 16 position. Mark Herzog, Ray Partridge, and Michael Thompson. Christopher Sherburne round out your top 20.
Yeah, they do. And here, looking at position number 21, is Matthew Thunhorse there, was on the back of that train. Claude Belval there, started third on the grid, didn't take to the grid, decided to start from pit road, finishes 22nd. Trevor Clement comes home 23rd with Mike Franklin. Brian McGreevy there, a little bit greedy in 25th there, with Jason Fleischle struggling with jumping the start. Bob Beltrami there in 27th with 2 cars a lap and 2 laps down respectively. Scott Gruber calls it an early day, as does Mark Walls.
All right, that is our finishing order, which, keep in mind, is going to be inverted. And can I get a drum roll, please? Our inverted number is 9th.
Patrick Fleming is your winner.
Yes, indeed, which means Blake Reynolds, if he wants to win 3 in a row, is going to have to pass 8 cars. We'll come back after the break. We'll have driver interviews and the final heat race of the day, which will determine our points after we sum up all the finishing orders. Stick around.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013. And our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapers to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education levels so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build your own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch once again, and once again, you are watching the Volt Vapes British Touring Car Championship opener. This is round 5 of the Pacific Majors here in the 2017 season. We just witnessed Heat 2 of 3 heat races, and today we're getting ready to grid Heat 3, which, if you are just joining us, they are going to invert the top 9. That is a random number that they picked and just announced after the finish of last race. So the drivers only just now found out who is going to be starting on the pole, which is going to be Patrick Fleming. Going to be interesting to see what that driver can do, who is actually, if I remember correctly, Bill, I think he's recently back from injury, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And because he's back and they feel sorry for him, they had his wife actually pick out the number for the race today. I don't know if that had anything to do with the number 9 coming up, but
Number 9?
Number 9?
Number 9. Anyway, so we've got a few drivers waiting to be talked to about this race. Should we start with Jason again? He didn't have as good of a race this time, and I'm not sure if he's going to be in the best of moods after the way that one went from start to finish. It sounds like he's not quite ready for us, so let's go to him a little bit later. Instead, why don't we talk to Josh Wolf, who was definitely in the thick of it again. Both times he was battling for top 5s, and this time he came out in 5th after finishing 6th last round. Josh, it was once again you kind of in the thick of the battle for 2nd place. Was it more intense or less intense this time?
It's definitely more intense there. Trying to get going, had got by Trevor and just tried to get a run on Richie there and kind of forced into probably a spot I shouldn't have tried and ended up losing a position and then watched Trevor go and get it. So definitely a lot harder and a lot more fun there, sliding around a lot more.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, how did the change in the weather conditions change how you were driving in this race? And do you expect more grip in the final round with it probably going to be in the evening?
I expect a little bit more grip, having a little cooler track with the sun setting. Definitely, I think it'll be sliding around a little bit more than what we did in the first race, and should be a lot of fun.
Now, with the inversion, unfortunately for you, I believe that sticks you right back in 5th, if I'm understanding correctly. So you really have no change, but you'll be 1 position higher than what we saw in race 2, which means you will be starting, I believe, on the inside. Is that correct?
I think so. I'm not really sure yet. I'll have to see when we get in there. But
I think the inside starts from, or I think the grid starts the odd numbers on the inside. So is that more appealing to you? Is that going to help you into Paddock Hill Bend, or would you prefer to be on the outside?
I don't know. I think the last 2 races I've been on the outside, and I've ended up on the inside going into one. So I just got to hopefully get another good start, and hopefully can get to that inside again. And I'd love to be battling, maybe come a second or so if I can get that start, like I've been doing going into the second corner. But we'll see what happens. Definitely a lot better starts from the guys around me this last race.
Joshua, even though you're starting in 5th, where you were about where you started last time, the difference would be you have names like Reynolds and Vrabowski and Hearn behind you. So that's gotta be a little bit something to look forward to.
Yeah, it was definitely fun racing with Trevor. It did, once he got out front, kind of backed up all of us, and I ended up losing a spot or 2 there. So that kind of got a little frustrating, but we got over it and were able to finish with a decent spot. And now I'm starting up a little bit farther with this next race. So we'll see what happens.
All right, that was Josh Wolf. Thanks for coming and talking to us. Good luck in the final heat race. He finished 5th today in heat round 2 of this 3-round series. Next up, it looks like Jason's finally come back. Why don't we come and talk to him about what was probably a little bit of a lonely race. Bill, do I dare hand you Jason?
Yeah, I just got to ask, how does that happen? I mean, it's real simple. The lights come on, the lights go off. It's not that complicated, Jason.
Yeah, that's why I'm here to talk to you. So I've got this mechanical glitch with my pedals that every now and then, when I got the clutch pedal all the way down, it doesn't register it that way in the sim. And I thought I fixed that But so as soon as I had the clutch down, so as I put it in gear, roll forward, black flag, nothing I could do but sit there and look at it.
I saw you got into a little bit of an issue back there. It really didn't mean much. You got into with Mark Waltz. You were way back in the back. I guess, was there any possibility that you're hoping that the random number was going to be like 26th?
Well, I was just trying to minimize the damage so I could, just try not to be last. And yeah, I got into Mark there. It was completely my fault. I think a little bit of net code there too, because he left, was coming out of 3, and he left me plenty of room. And I was just trying to, swing it into, not all the way out, but hold some momentum. And then next thing I know, I see his car, like, we just sandwiched together, and I saw him start to turn around. So I just put on the brakes and gave him the position back because he wasn't lapped yet at that point.
I'll get you out on this one. Alliance having a bit of a hard time of it here today between you and Kalisto having trouble. Let's see if you can get some points back for your group.
Yeah, got a lot of work to do now. I mean, the way that the points are scoring is how you finish. It's an aggregate, right? Not just heat 3. So, got some good points for the first heat, and I just got to see what I can do in the third heat, try and make up as much as I can.
All right, we'll be watching you. Good luck. Work your way through the field.
Thanks.
Jason Fleischley's got some work to do, Joe.
Yeah, and hopefully with the inverted grid, that'll mean a little chaos up in front of him to help him get through. We have got Trevor Vavrovsky, who's popped out of the car and ready to talk to us as his team preps it for race 3, as Vavrovsky took an excellent second place. And Jake Sperry, who stayed up late into the night to help us out tonight, is going to talk to him.
Oh, second time I'm talking to you tonight, Trevor. What happened in race 2 for you? A very good result in the end.
Well, it was another good start, and got up along with my teammate, and both got really good starts up the grid, and then trying to work my way around, and then once it got around, Richie kind of sat there and drove out of the mirrors for a lot of the race, but ended up being able to hold on to second, and shout out to Richie. I knew I was holding him up, but he didn't give me a bump or anything, so a lot of respect there.
The reverse grid comes for you being a number 9, and of course it's not a massive reverse grid, it's just a very small, very secluded reverse grid for you. A little bit of work to do. Do you think you can make your way through the pack?
Well, I started the last race from 7th and was able to get up to 2nd, so it's not going to be anything we're not used to. It's going to be interesting to see what will happen with Blake back there now that he's not just going to run away with things. But yeah, I'm not too worried about trying to get around people as long as you can get that good start.
Not too worried there. Trevor Vavrovsky then in the number 10 machine, proving that today might be his day when all is said and done there, Joe. And you have to say, that final race, that reverse grid, it does throw a few cats among the pigeons.
Oh, certainly it does. Now, waiting to see if we'll get Wayne Hutchison to come and talk to us. I told him to pop in if he wanted to, but it seems like he's still kind of hanging out in our lobby. We'll give him a chance to maybe come on into our ready for interview room if he would like to talk to us. But Bill, during the break, we were talking about this has been an endurance day for GSRC as well. We've had a lot of broadcasts. In fact, all 4 of us on the team have been doing multiple ones today.
The end is almost in sight. We just have one more heat to go. It started off early this morning with the Lotus 79 event that we had to do. Then also in there was the Absolute Beginners. That's a Skippy race that we cover. Then we went to the Lotus 49. We had that one to do well, and we're going to wrap up here with the Pack Major. So yeah, 4 events, and we've all done, I think, 3 each. So it's been quite a day for us at GSRC.
Yeah, Jake was on a Race Spot broadcast as well today, so he had duties outside of just here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, you get busy, you have to take what you get, and the money comes in. And, well, you do sim racing for fun, ladies and gentlemen, and, broadcasting is fun in my view, and, the racing speaks for itself. There's some brilliant racing in all forms of leagues and official.
What time is it over there across the pond right now, Jakey?
20-3.
Oh, my goodness.
He's got his tea probably and is sucking it down at this point. Let's talk to Wayne Hutchison as he's come on in, and we've got him mic'd up, see how his race went today as I look through the order, actually, because here's my notes. 16th today, so not as good as the top 10 finish, Wayne. A little bit harder out there, it seems, in Heat 2.
Yeah, that didn't go exactly as planned for sure. Got a really good start, really good first couple of corners, and picked up a couple spots. I think I was up to 8th. And then turn 3, got a little help off into the grass, ended up coming back in an 18th. So it was quite a dogfight from there, just to pick up anything. It was a tough one.
Now, the good news is there's only going to be 6 cars actually, between yourself and the driver that finished in first. So do you think maybe you could scythe your way through those cars, get onto the back of our pole sitter, Blake Reynolds, and maybe follow him through the top of the grid, let him maybe clear the way for you?
I wish that was the case, but I really doubt I can. I could keep up with Blake if I wanted to. He's just blistering fast out there today.
Now, I expect, especially after the response we've seen from some of the drivers initially, unless some minds have been changed in this race, I expect this race might not be on the 2018 grid. Would you like to see the touring cars back? Have you had fun today?
Yeah, actually, I've enjoyed it quite a bit. This was one of those new races. We decided we wanted to do something a little different in this time slot here, and I thought it was worth a try. I wouldn't mind seeing it come back, maybe at a different track where there's a little bit more opportunity for passing. But I think overall it's been a pretty good event, and I think the people that have put the effort in are really enjoying it.
Yeah, and you almost answered what my next question was going to be. I was going to give you a bit of a Bill Zahn question. If you could pick a track that we could race at in this car next season, which would you go for?
It wouldn't be so bad, actually, just to do Brands Hatch again, but maybe the long course. So you've got a little bit more straightaway to, get a little drafting, leg things out a little bit. That would be my first pick, I think.
I think we'd see a lot more attrition on that layout, though. The barriers are very close around the back half of that course. So,
yes, they are. Yeah. Given if you can't have that, then I would be very happy with my second choice, which would be Indy cars at Phoenix.
Oh my goodness. You're a glutton for punishment, sir. That would certainly be an exciting race with those cars having such high downforce around that little mile oval. Thanks for coming and talking to us, Wayne, and best of luck in the final heat.
Thank you. You guys are doing a great job.
Jimmy Clark would turn 82 next year. Probably not a significant enough birthday for them to consider the Lotus 49.
Oh, trust me, I was telling some of them when they started picking cars that they need to get the 49 out there, but that I think that got an even worse response than the Kia. So
it's going to be a tough sell, Joe.
I got shot down. Anyways, I'm not sure if we're going to be going to break here. Checking with my director, see what the plan is.
Oh, they're telling us to fill for 5 more minutes.
Got to make ourselves sound more interesting for 5 more.
I got my book of show tunes here if we need them, okay?
Oh, boy. No. I don't think we need to go that far, Bill, as much as we appreciate your singing.
One of these days.
Well, then, I will go to you guys' opinion. We saw, the first round in a distinctly different flavor in this second round. So have your opinions changed, Jake, at all as to what we've seen so far?
No. I think that we're still seeing here a level of driving. Maybe there's been a bit more respect in this second race. The fact that the elbows weren't as heavily out, that we saw that with everyone technically in position, shall we say, in terms of the racing, it was more naturally sorted out for this third race. I expect the front to have a few more elbows out. But by the same volition, though, towards the back of the field, you're not going to see too many people trying to drive their way forward here. There's still maybe a little bit that needs to be done in terms of sorting out the field, but there's not much here, Joe, to suggest that this isn't too much more akin to a normal race.
Okay, well, now you have disagreeing opinions here. I'm telling Amjad right now to replace the standard replay button with the heavy-duty one, because I think he's going to be hard on it. I think we're looking at a mess, and I don't disagree with anything that Jake just said, other than I think these guys are tired. I think they know their points. I think they're going to be aggressive, and I think a lot of them would like to get a win. They've been here for a long time. They've had 2 chances to get a win, and 29 of them have been disappointed in that quest. So I think we're going to see, Amjad may be Johnny on the spot then when it comes to getting replays ready.
They got nothing on me, Soup.
Well, and just Bill, you mentioned something that we haven't really talked about yet. These are sprint races, yeah, so they're done quick, but they've essentially done 64 laps already. And even though they are getting breaks in between, fatigue could come into play here.
I think the brakes are worse. I think this is killing them right now. This is like a rain delay.
Well, and keep in mind, too, the Canadian drivers, if any of them are on the East Coast, it's getting late over there.
I'm just happy that so far, Joe, you and I have gotten through this race and nobody has spoiled it by telling us the results of IndyCar or Formula One so far. So
well, now I'm really glad I'm not paying attention to the YouTube chat, because as soon as you said that, I guarantee you there are going to be some trolls in there.
Don't be looking over there. No good will come of that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I think that feels like about 5 minutes to me. If our director is happy with that, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll come back with Heat 3 here in round 5 of the Pacific Majors 2017.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013. And our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapors to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education levels so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build your own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
If you've been watching, this might sound familiar. Welcome back to Brands Hatch yet again as we get ready for Heat 3 of the Volt Vapes British Touring Car Championship opener, which will be round 5 of the Pacific Majors. We are going for the inverted grid this time. Top 9 are going to be changed around, and we're going to have Patrick Fleming starting on the pole. We'll get through the grid for you in just about 4.5 minutes time. But in the meantime, we're watching all the drivers warm up, this time with the evening lighting out there, having changed the grip to be just slightly better, but not quite as good as they had early in the morning as we watch the dog bear racer Ray Partridge continue to put his laps in around this just shy or just over 1 mile circuit here on the Brands Hatch Indy version of their course in Britain. And boy, it's been 2 very frantic races out there, Bill, and we're expecting more of the same here as they get the inverted grid mixed into it.
Just one more heat to go. It has been exciting. Looking, they inverted the top 9, so Reynolds is going to be starting 9th. He's got 8 guys to get around do the clean sweep. I don't think that's out of the question, honestly, especially if the seas part for him a little bit with some attrition up front that I am expecting to see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we might see a little bit higher attrition. You're right that some cars might fall by the wayside, especially drivers that have had bad races. We saw some fall towards the back and really desperately need to make a points shake that might cause a few more flared tempers.
Maybe here, and it's those drivers towards the back have to get through slower traffic. They're going to be the big issue, and there's only a couple of drivers who will be needed to do that through that event, but through this event even. But you know what you look at right now is you're only reversing the top 9. I've been in situations where I've watched races where only the top 5 have been reversed, and next to nothing has changed in terms of the action that went on. I look at 9, I think that 9 is still a relatively small number. I think that it isn't going to change too much in the grand scheme of things. And I also think that it could do something really quite interesting for Blake Reynolds come the end of the event.
Tell you what, let's look through who has finally showed up here for this final heat, because there's a few drivers that are yet to win a race despite being regulars long time over multiple years here at the Pacific Majors. Brian Bennett is one of them. He is a Northwest Club stalwart, has been here for pretty much since the beginning, and yet doesn't have a win despite being a front runner. He keeps getting very close. He had a podium at the Petit Le Mans last year. Richie Hearn is another driver that, despite being very good on both road and oval, and I guess being helped by his real-world experience, he has only gotten top 5s, and I expect that at some point luck is going to be on his side, and maybe he could sneak onto the top of the podium. Rob Gall, Bob Beltrami, and Michael Lane have all been around for a long, long time, and they continue to be very consistent, keep getting top 10s in a lot of these races, and yet have never had a win. So there's a lot of drivers keep your eye out for to see if they can manage to get into a win finally. And we're hearing, unfortunately, that Jimbo Pfeiffer and Lyndon Swaby are not going to be able to get in as they're having troubles entering the session. They've only got a minute and a half left to try and sort out those technical issues.
Then we're seeing that maybe they weren't there for the second heat, so maybe that's why they can't get in the third heat. You know, you talk about drivers doing well. I'm sure Richie Hearn, first of all, is going to gather a lot of energy because of his interview with me, so I'm sure that is going to propel him to success. Lord knows I can't see how that's not going to happen. Keep an eye on some of the drivers that are going to be starting back there. Lionel Callisto, of course, will be starting somewhere about 13th or 14th. We don't have the official names yet. And then, of course, you're going to have Fleischli's going to be way in the very back. And also, who was our other driver that had that bad race? Baval, who wasn't able to actually grid. He got bumped out in heat number 2.
Well, you were so modest.
I was just going to say, you heard it here. If you want a good race, have an interview with Bill Farley. But but I digress, as we've only got just about 20 seconds left before we can get to the grid here. And it looks like we have the same amount of cars as last time. So it sounds like those 2 that we lost, that we mentioned 29 drivers from 31, are Pfeiffer and Swaby, were the only 2 that didn't show in the last round. And It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, both with drivers coming from the back and those top 9 being switched around as now the checkered flag finally comes out here at Brands Hatch, this circuit not far outside of London that has hosted Formula One, all kinds of touring cars, and in fact endurance races as well. So let's go to the grid, and Patrick Fleming will be on pole, as we said. Brandon Chappell in second. Kyle Burney going to be starting in third position. Let's see what he can do. Michael Lane in fourth. Josh Wolf in fifth. And David Baker in sixth. Richie Hearn starts the race in seventh with Trevor Vrosky eighth. Blake Reynolds in ninth. And rounding out the top 10 is going to be Mitchell Cornett.
Not so many Brians for me. Only have 3 this time. 2 of them, Brian Grandin and Brian Bennett in the 11th and 12th spot. Lionel Callisto, another Brian Barnes in 14th spot. Rob Gall, Wayne Hutchinson. Get back to the next row. It's Mark Herzog with Ray Partridge. And then in row number 10, Michael Thompson and Christopher Sherburne. Jake?
Matthew Thunhorse there with Claude Belval, Trevor Clement and Mike Franklin 23 and 24. Brian McGreevy there in 25th with Jason Fleshley trying to get back to the front of the field. Bob Beltrami, Scott Gruber and Mark Walls make 29.
Whew, take a breath, everybody. We made it through the grid just as they finish up and the lights come off. Waiting for the green to come as the drivers rev their engines. There it is. They accelerate away. How are they looking at the front? A terrible start from Patrick Fleming, though. He's already being swamped. We're seeing 3 wide for the lead as a car has to take to the grass. I think that was Kyle Burney who manages to save it as we have a car going sideways. And I believe that was Richie Hearn. 3 wide now up into Druids. Cars banging doors. Richie Hearn trying to get that car back straight. Matthew Thunhurst expressing his displeasure over the radio, but I think they all managed to get through.
Yeah, I think they just did. And, well, there was issues with Callisto trying to get himself onto the grid. That's managed to make him into a trouble for Vrosky, and Lane then trying to go side by side for Vrosky. Loses out then in the end. Hearn is there just behind, and there's Blake Reynolds trying to go for the Uber around the outside line at Clearways even. Didn't quite work out for him. So now Cornett and Grandin going side by side behind. And this is where we might see the golf in the field.
And that was Brandon Chappell, who was in that 3 wide. Go ahead, Bill.
You guys were watching the front. The back was relatively clean.
And unfortunately, we're hearing that Callisto did not.
Oh, big crash!
Oh, it's a horror crash then that we're seeing there going through.
Chappelle involved in that one. He's probably the big loser.
Trevor Clement as well.
Yeah, Clement went on his hood, and that was because of the driver. I'm not sure who it was that bounced around.
It was Chappelle that went into the wall nose first.
How is he continuing? That was a violent hit. He just kept going like nothing happened.
Oh, he's got a few lucky charms in the car.
Oh, and we got another accident after that. It looks like, trying to see who was involved in that. Looks like Jason Fleischle. Oh no. After his great start, his car was on the side. Christopher Sherburne was involved in that, and Ray Partridge. Let's watch Fleischle here. You're going to see multiple cars, and then Fleischle, strangely, doesn't get on his hood. He gets on the passenger side. Well, I guess not the passenger side if you're in Britain.
I mean, look, we're seeing you on board for it as well, and it's not the accident that Fleischle would have wanted here in this event, and he knows that his rival Blake Reynolds here is making great inroads here. He's already got past here the driver retriever Vrosky, so he's now up into P number 6 for this one, Joe. Now it's just a case of if and not when, because he's managed to gain 3 positions in 3 laps. At this rate, he'll be at the front by lap 9.
It's going to get harder as he goes, though, as he meets tougher and tougher drivers who are fighting harder for their position. But Blake Reynolds, remember, he is our championship leader. He wants to come away with the win, the overall win, after these 3 heats to help himself extend that lead. Meanwhile, our leaders, Fleming holding off by about 7/10 over Wolf. He's been up towards the top. Can he get himself onto the podium finally in this final heat? Kyle Burney in 3rd, Brandon Chappell in 4th, and Michael Lane in 5th.
Yeah, and what you're actually noticing here is you're seeing these battles starting to just diminish a little bit here now. Everyone just trying to work out where the order is for everyone to start going through here. And we saw some early little incidents that's starting to worry here. And actually, I do want to try and christen a nickname here for Blake Reynolds because, you know, you look at Brands Hatch and you look at actually motorbike races here. A driver called Shane Byrne, always up there towards the front, always doing very well. And his nickname Shaky, so you got Shaky Blakey Reynolds.
All right, I like that one. As Reynolds now still in 6th, closing in on Michael Lane, coming through Druids. It's going to switch back here. Oh, we got a car smoking.
Engine! And that is Joshua Wolf. So, you know, there's the whimper once again, and that is the end of Joshua Wolf, surely.
He's going to have a spare car. He's trying to get it as far back to the pit lane as he can go. Oh, but he hits the driver. Michael Lane gets into him. Cars scatter to try and avoid them, and we got more cars getting tipped around. That's an Elite West driver. That is Richie Hearn, who loses positions.
Hearn got together with Borowski.
Let's watch the replay.
Oh, they're getting together even more. That's grinding into the wall. Oh, dear me.
We'll go to that after this replay. There we can see the cars,
I think,
scattering to try and avoid them.
Just stay on it, Director, and move up to Grandin. You'll see it.
It's coming in into Paddock Hill Bend. I think it was just a miscommunication here. Just gets punted out of the way and unfortunately straight to the barriers with a hard hit. Oh, and we got some more incidents going on down the way there.
Yeah, we certainly have seen quite a few incidents there in the early stages, but look at this little pack here in the middle of the field. It just stretches back, and it's all stuck behind here. The driver of Richie Hearn, of all people. Brian Bennett, Mitchell Cornett, Brian Baz, David Baker is in there. Goal. You look at the likes of Kalisto still there towards the back of that, albeit a lap down there in terms of the event. So, you know, everyone's still fighting, everyone's still scrapping. And look at this, Hearn under pressure here from Brian Bennett. Bennett not afraid to mince it with the big boys.
Very much putting the pressure on. Meanwhile, I think Amjad is getting blisters on his fingers because it's all getting a little helter-skelter around this track as we watch Hearn manage to put a little bit of a gap, and now it looks like Bennett is going to be under threat from Mitchell Cornett.
Yeah, it seems that way at the moment. You're seeing Mitchell Cornett under a lot of pressure right now. You can see Brian Barnes there as well. It's about working out that game of chess, that attack to defense strategy that you're seeing here from the driver of Mitchell Cornett. And right now, you are looking at this, and maybe it's going to have to be a case of let it be in this situation because the battle for the lead as well is going on. Patrick Fleming then under a lot of pressure, and he holds onto the position. No, he doesn't. Kyle Burney, of all people, then takes himself to the lead, and all three of them now have to be careful. There's a Blake Reynolds in the mist.
Oh, Bernie has got to be grinning ear to ear as he has not yet won a Pacific Majors race. He's come close a few times as we're going to watch, what are we watching the replay here of the pass for the lead? Snuck up the inside into Druids, but the battle is still on because Fleming's not giving up without a fight as he closes in through Clearways, and Brandon Chappelle is starting to get into this mix as the battle has backed them up into the third place driver.
Yeah, it has, and you can see Brandon Chappell now just getting himself very, very close into this battle right now, and you can see Fleming under a lot of pressure, moves to the inside, a heavy, heavy block down onto the brakes, and they're gonna get it sorted. They're gonna rub some doors and trade some paint, and maybe the wing mirror might come off, and he's pushed over to the outside. Fleming very forcefully has lost the position.
Fleming is not happy. He's getting on the radio telling them how aggressive they're being. I think he's going to go one more down because here comes Blake Reynolds, the winner of the first two heats, wastes no time, and he's already within a second and a half of the leader in fourth place.
Reynolds made 2 of the passes on the track. The rest of it, he just got around spinning cars.
All that needs to be said here in this situation is Shaky Blakey right now needs to try and make the move down into Paddock Hill. Not going to be close enough, then we'll have to do it around the outside when he does get that opportunity. He's got 17 laps to do these moves now. You can see he's nose to tail, and it's a hard defense to the inside. No way there for Blakey boy to get around the outside. Not going to work for him, but he's going to try it anyway. The run to Graham Hill, the room will have to be given through, and they get close. Oh, they touch, and he's turned.
Oh, Patrick Fleming looked like he had enough and was just getting uber aggressive on everybody. Tried to shut the door, but unfortunately is costing him positions as Reynolds got into him. I wonder if we're going to see a penalty from the live steward for that one, though.
If you don't want to influence the stewards, but I'm not sure if Fleming did much wrong there.
It's very difficult there. There was always an overlap as they came out of that corner. So the question was, how hard of a defense was Patrick Fleming going into that corner? It is very, very disillusional, the amount of space you have in that Kia Optima, especially as you go through. Fleming back down the inside, though, of Brian Barnes.
Already trying to make his way back through the field, but what this has done is separated second place from third. Blake Reynolds now 2.5 seconds back from Brandon Chappell, who still holds on within half a second of our leader, Kyle Burney. 17 laps to go on this final 27-lap heat here in round 5 of the Pacific Majors.
And you have to say it wouldn't happen any other way. Then you can see Reynolds now will have to close the gap. Chappell and Burney will want to walk away with this one. It's a case of who can get themselves there first. Bennett and Cornette, though, they're still there side by side. Well, not exactly side by side, but nose to tail at the moment here in terms of the racing action right now. And Reynolds is actually falling away in third position. Cornette now close, not close enough into Paddock Hill Bend. It's a very difficult corner to get things right. And we've seen 3 or 4 incidents here in this final race alone.
Big incidents as well. Drivers going onto their hoods, major shunts into the barriers behind these guys. Wow, what a battle going on there as Patrick Fleming gets tipped once again from Brian Barnes having to go through Druids. That stacks him up as David Baker, Lionel Callisto, and Rob Gall are all on top of these guys. Callisto, however, is a lap down. He's not in this fight.
Yeah, Callisto and also Fleischle, big names that are out of it. Duvall, we saw him work his way up into 16th spot right now.
Hoping to just manage to scrounge some points together over what is a disappointing round 5 for these drivers. As Fleming manages to streak away there, you can see at the bottom of your screen starting to finally gap.
Banging going on from Burney and Chappell. That was through Druids. Chappell tried to give him a little assistance on making some room for him to get around.
And he gets on the radio apologizing, obviously wanted to race this one fair.
It's more than that one, Joe. They want to break away here from Blake Reynolds, and Reynolds is coming back. Another little shot to the back bumper, then a little bit of a warning tap then from Brandon Chappell then. As you can see, Kyle Burney now getting himself into that little bit of a situation where he doesn't know whether to trade positions or not to try and work the draft together. You can see weaving all over the back there is Brandon Chappell. It's not working here. Gap down to 1.5 seconds right now. Blake Reynolds all over it. Here comes Chappell, though, down to the inside, and he's going to try and rub some doors again, and he forces the matter and made the gap himself. Can open a move.
Yeah, Chappell had to get going because he could see Reynolds getting bigger in his rearview mirror. He knew he was faster than Burney. At least he thought he was.
Back, though.
Burney tried to make that car as wide as possible. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, as unfortunately Brandon put his car just in the middle of the road coming to clearways and denied him. Even still, this battling has now allowed Blake Reynolds to get within 0.3 of second place Kyle Burney. But can he get by both of these cars without letting one of them back through? He's got to do one at a time now, Bill.
Yeah, I think he has, with 13 laps, I think he has more than enough time to get this done as he really goes wide off into the sand. Now they go down into Druid. This is not really where he's the fastest. Stay with us a little bit. You will see him as they get to the back half of the course through 4 or 5. When they go through clearways, he's really quick. Might not be able to get to see it because he doesn't have the room to pick up the gap like he did before.
And we've seen him out front now. However, we have seen him make a pass before as he managed to get past Fleischle, remember, in
really
Heat 1.
Here.
Yeah. But the question is, how can he handle 2 cars instead of just battling one at a time with nobody else around? It starts to complicate things when you get 3 guys into the mix down into the first corner. He's close, but not close enough. He's staying patient, sticks his nose in just a little bit. He's been given room by Kyle Burney, who doesn't chop him off at the apex. Still not sending one up the inside as they come to Druids. This is indeed a very patient Texan who is waiting in that Kia to get the right opportunity so he doesn't risk the car.
Jake, I think he can be a little more patient because he realizes he's not losing a ton of time to the leader.
He isn't here. He's got 11 laps to go. He's just got to try and work the mistake. He's confident in his pace. He managed to catch up 2.5 seconds in about 2 laps. So he knows that he can make these moves. It's just about waiting and picking and choosing the moment here to really make sure that there is zero risk. At the moment, he leads the championship no matter what happens coming out of this event. The question is, does he want to get the treble? And the answer has to be an overwhelming yes. You can see close again into Paddock Hill Bend. Needs a stunning run off of the corner, and he's going to get an okay run, but that's not going to be good enough to make the dive down into Druids, or up into Druids even. It is a slide uphill when you get yourself up into that right-hander.
Well, if he manages to win all 3 heat races, that'll make it the easiest calculations in the world for us for who won this overall. But now they've got Ray Partridge, who's going to throw another monkey wrench into the system. And our leader, Brandon, has come up behind him, trying to put a lap on him. He's going to move to the outside. And Ray Partridge gets well out of the way, lets all 3 of them through, and no drama.
No dramas, no llamas. You can see right now here just how these packs are now starting to form. It's just 2 or 3 little trains right now. The likes of Fleming, Barnes and Baker now. They're all together. And look at this 4-car train. Look at this driving, though, from the driver of Brian McGreevy right now. He's up 12 positions for the day so far and has done incredibly well in this second event, or this third event, actually, of the evening right now. Certainly proving his worth right now in terms of where he stands.
So as we watch McGreevy slice his way through the field after what had to have been a disappointing second heat, he is actually under threat there as you're watching Matthew Thunhorse try to put the pressure on coming down through Graham Hill Bend.
And the pressure really does tell here for McGreevy right now, as he knows that Thunhorse does have some pace here, was there or thereabouts with him during the last race, and now we'll try and go around the outside at clearways. That's not going to work. Going to try and set up the up and under and get a stunning run out of the corner. Going to have to go defensive here as McGreevy, and quite early as well. He forces the man to the outside, pinches the man there. Very, very tight, and no, there's not going to be enough room to make that one work. Up and under, tries it, and he tries to slice it behind him, and he gets the up and under. Now he's got the inside for Druids and doing everything he needs to do. Thank you very much. Position for the moment is his.
Oh, I don't know if it's over yet. McGreevy, nope, now he slots into line, but Matthew Thunhorst, with a gap about as thin as a piece of paper, manages to slice his way back into 11th position behind them. It's starting to get hot with Brian Grandin trying to come back through. Remember, he had problems earlier on in this heat race, and he wants to try and climb up the order. Claude Belval behind him, looking at the wide line, tries to cut back in to get the run.
Chapel. It's all starting to kick off. A look to the inside. It was heavily blocked, so no, that's not going to happen there for the driver of Carl Burney. Got to do a little bit more if you want that first win in the Pack Majors. It's not as simple as pie. You got to make sure you work on it and keep on fighting it. Reynolds there, big drift though through the mid part of Graham Hill, and again, track limits extended from Brandon Chapel.
Boy, after we saw what wasn't the most exciting battle for the lead in Heat 2, we are being rewarded with a stunner here at the front with only 8 laps to go now as Brandon desperately tries to hold on, and Kyle Burney is watching his mirrors and watching out the windscreen, trying to figure out which way to turn his focus to.
Yeah, Burney has come back on Chapel now. Chapel, I think, tires might be going away from him. Burney clearly faster, especially he was right behind him, especially again on the back half of the pack. Reynolds just waiting for an opportunity. I think he can, with 7 to go, he can be patient for a little while longer.
Oh, this time Blake Reynolds gets a fantastic run coming out of Grand Hill Bend. He's about a car length back, but there's not a whole lot of braking and not a whole lot of room here in the clearway, so he's got to have to wait in line one more time as they all accordion together up around this final corner.
It's got to be the Yvonne Muller strategy you have to feel now. You've got to push to pass in that sort of sense. He can't find a way through by sitting there and waiting. He's got to try and prod and force. You can see he's close again into Paddock Hill Bend, but again, he's now being stuck on everyone else's pace right now. Needs to really find that way through. And for Shaky, this win, this treble is going away from him right now. When they cross the line here, Joe, it's 5 laps to go.
Running out of time. The ticking clock is just pounding in the ears of Shaky as he continues to hold on to the back of these 2 competitors. As you said, 5 to go as they come around the corner. Oh, getting very close as Kyle Burney opens the door a little bit for Blake Reynolds, but he's not able to capitalize, and they're going to stay in order. Down the Brabham straight they go. Up the hill towards Paddock Hill Bend. They stretch out just a little bit, giving some breathing room.
Breathing room's all they need here at the moment, and you can look at this for Shaky Blake. He's now lost that gap then again to Kyle Burney, who needs to try and make the move here on Brandon Chappell if he is to want to get that win. Timer is running out, the opportunities are there, and you feel if you just place the car right, you make your life a nightmare. And for Brandon Chappell, he's been very forceful, very late with that move, Verstappen-esque in that sense, but he's made that moves work, and that is the crucial fact here. Started second, still in first position.
Coming around one more time on clearways, you can see the different lines that all three drivers are taking. Everyone has their own unique approach to that long final corner, and this time it's paying off greatest for the number 44 as Brandon now stretches it to half a second over Kyle Burney. This is exactly what he needs in these dying moments.
Oh, and all over the curb there was the driver of Kyle Burney, and there's the opportunity. He has to go defensive to Blake Reynolds, and Shaky tries around the outside, and he's not going to get it there. Tries the up and under, but the outside line is not going to be helpful here into Graham Hill Bend. He's going to have to wait on the outside. There's contact, and that's going to be the race gone.
Ooh, hopefully he did not touch his suspension and damage the car, because Blake Reynolds can still hold on to this third place. He can still catch up. We've seen the pace that Reynolds has had to try and gain on them, and you can already see he's closing in on the back of Burney. But Burney, as we keep saying, has his elbows out almost literally this time as it comes to blows between himself and the third place driver.
Oh, wow. And well, now with just 3 laps to go, the gap now a second here for Kyle Burney, and Brandon Chappell seems clear right now. Behind that, though, you got here the drivers of Varosky and also Hearn closing in that gap. You can see Varosky did a 48.8 that last time by. 49s all round then from those 3 drivers. So Varosky is a little too late right now. And you can see side by side as Cornette and Bennett going at it right now here into Graham Hill Bend. And you can see Bennett holds the position for the moment. Undercut coming.
He's got the momentum off the corner, but he's going to be on the wrong side of the track as they come up to clearway side by side. Cornette decides discretion is the better part of valor and backs out of it.
Yeah, very good decision there that we've seen there from the driver of Brian Bennett there. He managed to just hold on to it. Cornette doing well just to stay behind. Will have that opportunity. Reynolds back again, though, within 0.3 of a second. Now all over the back then with just 2 laps to go here, Joe. And now you can see again, doesn't decide to make the move into Druids. Maybe had a chance for the Hail Mary. Maybe that comes along in the final lap. For the moment, though, Blake Reynolds here is looking very fragile about making that move. He hasn't been confident. He's been stuck there like a rut right now, and he needs to find something, a little bit of miracle magic.
What is in the mind of Blake Reynolds? Is he thinking, I've already got this one if I finish third? Is he thinking, I need to make it all 3 and show my dominance, demoralize these guys out on the track? He's very close to Kyle Burney. He's been trying, as you said, looking a lot more circumspect after that contact, maybe worried about bringing the car home, just sealing up this third place. He stays in line as the white flag comes out, 1 to go. And right now, Brandon Chappell with an 0.8 of a second lead. Around Druids they go, final lap. He gets a run out of the corner. You can tell he's pushing as he takes all of the track and then some, but it doesn't help as they come through Graham Hill Bend. He's running out of opportunities. Blake Reynolds might still be looking at a third place. With all is said and done ahead of him, you have to give credit to the number 44. It took him a little bit to get up to the front. He started in second. He's going to lead the rest of the way. In fact, he's going to lead the most important lap as Brandon Chappell takes the win in the final heat of today.
What a sensational victory that is for Brandon Chappell, who's done everything he needs to do in that situation. Cornette will lose out then on that drive to line. Look at this, some fantastic trains then coming towards the end of this event. No real side-by-side happening, but, you know, it has been some great action. We have seen some great little battles going on. And in the end, you know, it's been great racing all around, I've had to say.
McGreevy up 13 spots to 12th. We watched it. Good race from him.
Yeah, nice run from him. And usually we equate post-race brawls with with NASCAR, but I know that the British Touring Car Championship has seen its fair share of physical altercations. The way the top two were talking about that finish, I wonder if we might get a British Touring Car Championship style argument post-race.
Why not? It'll
Why
be
not?
enjoyable, and you get the call.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next iRacing build, they can put something like that in.
All right. I believe we're going to do this the old-fashioned GSRC way. We're going to go to break, and we're going to give you the unofficial results after we come back. We're also going to have the driver interviews, but on screen, we're going to have all the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel, so don't go away.
Hi, my name is Donovan Johns. I'm the owner-operator of Vapes here in Boise, Idaho. We opened our first location inside the Boise Town Square Mall in February of 2013. And our second location we opened up on the corner of Fairview and Milwaukee in May of 2013. One of the things that we specialize here is in the entry-level and mid-level range hardware and equipment for beginning vapors to really get the concept of vaping down and to feel confident in their education levels so they're not going to be inundated or overwhelmed with some of the higher end mods. One of the things we also do here is we have the build your own kits, which you can pick any of our entry-level, mid-level batteries and tanks and assemble it into your own kit so you can take home exactly what it is you're looking for when you leave the store.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch. We just saw the ending of heat race number 3 here in round 5 of the Pacific Majors. Oh my goodness, if you missed it, if you're just joining us, go back and watch that third race because boy, that was great stuff. In the end, it was Brandon Chappell who came out with the win, with Kyle Burney coming home in second. Blake Reynolds, who we're almost 100% certain won the overall today, came home with a podium. He was on the podium all 3 times with 2 wins in the other 2 heats. Trevor Vavroski fell off a little bit, but still managed a 4th place. Richie Hearn, with very consistent finishes, comes home in 5th today after starting in 7th. Brian Bennett is going to finish the race in 6th with Mitchell Cornett in 7th, and Patrick Fleming, boy, he got roughed up and then some, but he still managed to finish 8th after starting on the pole. Brian Barnes came home in 9th after starting 14th, gained a number of positions. David Baker in 10th, and then Matthew Thunhorst in 11th. You get Brian McGreevy coming home in 12th, with Brian Grandin in 13th and Claude Beval finishing in 14th. Then we get halfway through the field, Bill, with Rob Gall coming home in 15th.
All ribbons and curls, Scott Gruber in 16th spot, Wayne Hutchinson behind him. Joshua Howland-Wolf on the lead lap, but lost 13 spots. Started 5th, going to finish in 18th. Mark Herzog right behind him. Michael Thompson, 20th position. 21st, Mark Waltz. And then the last car on the lead lap, it is Bob Beltrami in 22nd. 23rd, 24th, and 25th go to Ray Partridge. Lionel Callisto just was not his day. Mike Franklin behind him. And then wrapping up the back section of the field, Jason Fleischle, Christopher Sherburne, Michael Lane, and Trevor Clement. 29 drivers. Joe?
We've got our winner waiting in the wings, getting mic'd up. So let's talk to Brandon and see how he felt about things. First off, I really want to clear things up because we had two pronunciations going on in the booth. Is it Chapel or Chappelle?
It's actually Chapel.
All right, so I had it wrong this whole time. Credit to Jake for catching that. Brandon, oh my goodness, what a drive that was, holding off both Blake, who won the previous rounds, and Kyle Burney, who was obviously very eager to retake the lead away from you. How do you feel about the claims that you were blocking?
He did claim.
We think we lost you there, Brandon.
Can you hear me?
Now we got you. Sorry
about that. I don't feel like I moved twice. There was a couple, little eager blocking opportunities on his part. He kind of squeezed me going into turn 2 a couple times, and it's touring car racing. There wasn't really a lot of opportunities to pass, and so I did the best I could, and I kind of felt bad about after the race. He seemed a little bit upset about it, and I kind of said my part, but that he didn't really race me super clean, through the race at the beginning as well. There was a little bit of squeezing going on. So, like I said, it's racing. I didn't complain about him kind of squeezing me down into corners or anything. So understood that was going to kind of happen.
Yeah, let's leave that negativity behind and congratulate you on your win. You started from second. With it being an inverted grid, did you expect to go forward or did you think you'd go backwards?
I kind of was just looking for a top 5 finish, honestly. I just wanted to play it kind of safe and conservative and get good points for the team. That's kind of a big part of our team is we're just wanting to get good finishes. I've had a couple bonehead moves this season, including messing up my pit stop due to hardware at Sebring and missing the start altogether on the first race where I was qualified 4th, unfortunately, just due to the fact that I wasn't paying attention. I was messing with hardware trying to get my Oculus to run smoothly.
Now, and speaking of your team, Elite West, Richie has been having a good series of races, series of heats, finishing up in the top positions pretty much every time. I imagine this is going to help Elite West in the championship. Are you guys paying attention to that? And is there anybody in charge of that team?
Yeah, so it's a big part. We want to race clean and race good against Team Alliance, but it is a big team effort. I think that's our goal, is just to do well as a team. Richie Hearn's definitely the guy in charge of our team. He's the guy that's kind of organizing it, making sure we get in and do enough laps in practice, and so he's the head honcho of the team, and he does a phenomenal job. Started with a great setup from him. He did a lot of work this last couple of weeks for this race, and I want to give a lot of credit to him on the setup and get me up to the front.
Well, it certainly seemed to get you at least one win in the 3 heat races. Again, congratulations. Job well done.
Hey, thanks, Joe. I really appreciate you having me up here. And thanks, everyone, for watching. And just want to say thanks to Team Elite and Richie for putting this together for us.
That was Brandon Chappell, I'm going to get it right this time, who won heat number 3 today. But we have the driver we're pretty sure is the overall winner. That's going to be Blake Reynolds, coming to talk to us yet again here at the GSRC booth.
Well, he is your points leader. He won 2 of the heats today, and I think he's going to be your overall winner when all the things are tallied up. And of course, we are talking about Blake Reynolds. Blake, let's go to that last heat there. You made a couple stabs, but you just couldn't get around the driver in front of you.
Yes, quite tough there. That last stint was racing real hard, just up on their toes, I guess, just because of that last stint. Track was really grippy, made for some great racing. So good on Brandon and Kyle to keep up there and stay in front.
All right, my interpretation of riding shotgun, which is your team, is that means like you're the second in line, but that's not the case right now for you. This is going to help out your team.
Yeah. I guess the name really doesn't have anything to do with our results. We've been running really good this past couple of years in the Pacific Majors League and other leagues. And, I had no idea I was the points leader going into this. Or even now, I guess. I just was kind of racing to do it. Missed the first race of the season. Just made a couple of mistakes. And, I guess I'm the points leader.
What they did was they took into account the drop races, which is pretty smart of the series organizers. So you missed the first race. That's wiped away. So you got that one there, so that's why you're up there. Well, congratulations. It's quite an honor to be there. There's been some big names up there, and certainly you fit right in. Let me see if I can find my schedule here. I had where we were going next. It is the Coke 600. That's right. The big car, 600 miles. Get some fluid in you there for that one.
Oh, yeah. I won that race last year. It was a lot of fun, just kind of cruising there. We should have a new set. The Cup car has new physics now. It's going to be quite difficult with the new geometry on that thing. So it should be fun at the Coke 600.
All right. Well, sounds like you're going to be there. GSRC there will be there as well to cover that one. So good luck the rest of the way in your quest for, I believe, your first Pack Majors Championship.
Yes, sir.
There's your winner today. And he was certainly, Joe, I think, the car to beat out there.
Pretty much seemed like that. And we have a T-Mac driver, our second place finisher, to talk to. He's going to be our last interview for today. And thankfully, it looks like our winner, Brandon, and third place driver, Blake, have taken off. I was afraid we'd have to separate the boys here in the booth. Kyle, you had some really hard racing. I can say it was very entertaining from up here in the booth. How did it feel down in the car?
It was definitely hard racing. This track is not very easy to pass, especially when you have front wheel drive cars. I knew I didn't really have an issue with Blake behind me. I knew he was fast, but I knew he was smart and wasn't going to try anything crazy. So I just was able to just keep my eyes out the front window and watch the whole time. But it was good racing, hard racing. That is, there were some questionable moments, but other than that, it was pretty good.
And we've been asking drivers after, each of the races kind of how they felt about things, since this car got a lot of negative reception when it was first announced, and also the lead up this week that we'd be driving it. Now that you've done 3 heat races, how do you feel about the car?
Let's just say I won't be taking the cover off of it anytime soon.
That's fair enough. Well, you're still looking for that first elusive win, if I'm checking my stats correctly, here in the Pacific Majors. Do you think you'll fare a little bit better at Charlotte next month?
No idea. Don't even know if I'm going to be able to make Charlotte. Honestly, don't know if I'm going to be able to make the rest of the season due to personal commitments and everything. I want to get that win. I thought I was able to do it today. Wasn't able to pull it off. Tried it, but couldn't get it done. And we'll see what happens at Charlotte. But I'm definitely not an oval racer, so it'll definitely be hard. I'll have to have some luck falling my way.
Well, you had a top 10 finish in the second heat, and you've managed to finish on the podium on the third heat, so you can't be too sad with that. That's Kyle Burney, who is second place today here in Heat 3 of the Pacific Majors race at Brands Hatch. We're going to close up, however, and of course we want to thank Volt Vapes for sponsoring this show once again. They've done a lot to make sure that the Pack Majors gets put on year after year. And of course, thanks to Mike Willett, who has since the beginning been the organizer of this league. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast. You can see them listed on your screen. Additional thanks to our musical contributors Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, whose music you can also find at the websites listed. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Jake, I did it again. Bill, Jake, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel. Next race is going to be the Coke 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That'll be Sunday, May 7th, just about a month from now at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss that one. We also have upcoming races for other series on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.